Chapter 1455. The Luo Xiaobai trio each had their own opportunities. In just 7 years, everyone had reached the threshold of the tribulation. This speed was actually not slow. However, compared with Han Fei's abnormal speed, it was naturally far inferior. However, according to Han Fei's estimation, the three of them might need some time to polish their foundation. But it might not necessarily be difficult for them to find a great way. After all, the paths they were taking now had their own characteristics. Even Luo Rinquang clearly knew what path he was taking and was very firm on it. Luo Xiaobai was so smart that she definitely knew what path he was taking. As for Zhang Xuanyu, he might have already vaguely determined his own path when he was still a fishing master. After eating for more than an hour, he heard Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu bragging over there. Zhang Xuanyu said, Fei, you won't believe me. My current spear fighting technique can be said to have reached the pinnacle. With one spear strike, I can tear the void and kill explorers. Han Fei thought to himself, I've long been proficient in knocking on the gate of heaven. Why are you still showing off in front of me? So Han Fei couldn't help but say sympathetically, Isn't your spiritual power very strong? Why don't you use your spiritual power to knock on the gate of heaven? Han Fei faintly taught him the technique of the soul-stun stab, and Zhang Xuanyu waved his hand. I tried, so I got a new technique that can stab the soul. Not only that, I also put the soul explosion technique on the tip of the spear and got the soul stab technique. In that scene, the enemy was already dead before I arrived, and the spear moved. Han Fei was speechless and thought to himself, that's right. Zhang Xuanyu made a living with this technique from the beginning to the end. Zhang Xuanyu chuckled, bumped Han Fei with his shoulder, and whispered, Fei, I heard that you made an ultra-quality divine weapon and stopped the fierce battle between the venerables of the Outer Sea? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. F***CK. Old man, I even told you this? Don't think about it yet. Wait for it to be nourished for more than 10 years before plucking it. It's best to seal a legendary creature with a spirit, which has a certain chance of being promoted to a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. This was the first time Han Fei had forged an ultra-quality divine weapon, so he was quite cautious and set up various arrays around it. It was extremely difficult. If a venerable wanted to take action, it would depend on whether or not they had the guts to come to the Scattered Stars Island. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed when he heard sea-quelling bizarre treasure. What? You can forge sea-quelling bizarre treasures now? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Bullshit. I say it's possible, but the probability is very low, not high. After all, there's a huge amount of martial highness power left in the battlefield, and I'm using the martial highness power to nurture it. Zhang Xuanyu grinned. Phew, I don't mind. Let's sit there for a few years. After chatting with Zhang Xuanyu, Luo Rinquang leaned in and said, Fei, you've been there for so long. Did you create any special creatures? How's the texture? Inspired by Han Fei, everyone had the habit of collecting ingredients. Han Fei's lips twitched. I'm here to gain experience, not to look for food. In terms of the species of marine creatures in the two places, there was actually not much difference. I'll share something fresh with you. With that said, Han Fei controlled a fiery python and a fire immortal fish with an array. These were all creatures hunted near the Bloodsea Divinewood City, and the weakest was at the Tao-seeking state. Luo Rinquang immediately rubbed his hands and laughed. I knew you wouldn't return empty-handed. During the whole process, Luo Xiaobai didn't speak much. After the meal, Luo Xiaobai said, Han Fei, if you want to go to the 1,000-star city again, be careful. Now, the big families have completely lost control of the 36 towns and the Scattered Stars Island, and the 1,000-star city is their last fortress. Han Fei asked, Is the Luo family really fine? Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. The divine skills of the Luo family are extraordinary. The big families won't attack the Luo family. Besides, the Luo family is now on the same side as the 7 major sections. We'll help each other out, so we're fine for the time being. Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai seemed to remember something. She said, Han Fei, I have a piece of news. I wonder if it will help you? Han Fei asked, What is it? Luo Xiaobai explained, That was 5 years ago. The elders of the family have seen many strong masters of the Chu sect enter the thousand-star proving ground through parasitic spiritual plants. When they came out, 3 of them were missing. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. How strong were they? Luo Xiaobai replied, the venerable realm. The next morning, Luo Xiaobai and the others had already left, but Han Fei couldn't leave the Scattered Stars Island for the time being. Early in the morning, the Sea God Square was already crowded with people, although the post-war work was still in full swing. However, General Han had said that the sea demons had been defeated, so they naturally didn't want to stay in their posts. After all, on the first day of victory, the mood of the people on the Scattered Stars Island began to improve. Although many had fallen, their sacrifice was still valuable. Yesterday, although Han Fei's Apocalypse divine skill was infinite, it also consumed a lot of energy. Fortunately, Han Fei could use the Apocalypse Great Path. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to heal so many people. However, the benefits of healing were also generous. The power of faith surged, and the hundreds of thousands of people almost became Han Fei's diehard fans. When Han Fei stepped into the air and appeared in front of everyone. Someone shouted, "He's here! General Han is here!" Everyone stood still and began to shout, "General Han! General Han! General Han!" Han Fei proudly took out the sky hanging mirror, and the sky curtain opened with a swish. Seeing this, Shueishenshi in the transverse mountain was speechless. When the sky hanging mirror was in my hands, it was only used to mobilize people in wartime. What did you use it for? But now, Han Fei couldn't wait to use the sky hanging mirror on himself every day so that millions of people could see his appearance. Shueishenshi obviously didn't understand what a star effect or the influence of a hero was. When Han Fei's portrait appeared, the cheers were like waves in the sky, rising and falling, rolling nonstop. If Han Fei sang a song at this time, he would really become a national idol. While feeling the influx of the power of will, Han Fei flew into the air and greeted the millions of soldiers. "Soldiers, comrades, I, Han Fei, am honored to fight with you on the battlefield, feasting on the flesh of sea demons and thirsting for the blood of the venerable. We have fought an unprecedented victory and fought for the future of the human race. Roar, we are honored to fight with General Han on the battlefield." In the sky curtain, Han Fei grinned. "Comrades, we humans have won a complete victory in this battle. The number of sea demons killed in this battle is as many as 1,000,000. There are countless sea spirit and Tao-seeking great demons, thousands of them. There are also as many as 10 venerables. In fact, there were several sea demon venerables, and most of them were just the projections of the Black Killer Snail King. But even so, this was still a great victory. If they didn't eradicate the enemy this time, they would appear again next time." Han Fei smiled and said, "Everyone, the battle has been decided. From today on, the Scattered Stars Island is liberated." Roar. "Huh? Liberated? Liberated?" Someone was dumbfounded. "What do you mean?" Someone was confused. "What do you mean?" Before the crowd guessed, Han Fei shouted, "Everyone, the heavenly Tao is heartless and treats all things as fish. The Sea Clan invaded, and the human race fought for tens of thousands of years. How many people had broken up their families and broken up their families? How many people stayed on the Scattered Stars Island, guarding all living beings in obscurity? However, as long as the human race is not destroyed, we have to live until the end of time. In any era, we must be unyielding and never bow our heads. Nothing in the world can destroy the human race, not even heaven and earth." Han Fei's voice was agitated, and he repeated what he said when he entered the City of Justice. God knew whether this was his wish or Shiman Linglan's. As soon as he said that, the people present numbered in the millions. Their chi and blood surged, and their voices were thunderous as they shouted madly. Some even had tears in their eyes, crying and laughing. This is the human race. Nothing in the world can destroy us. Countless people looked up at the sky curtain and looked at Han Fei's agitated voice. Jiao Yinling's eyes were infatuated. He Xiaoyu stood next to her father of the sightseeing group from the 36 towns with a complicated look. The village chief and Li Gang's bodies trembled. Their minds were filled with things like, a big shot has appeared in our village. Our gang leader is very powerful. In the crowd, Lin Wu shouted with a group of people. She thought to herself, if my senior brother is so powerful, how powerful is our teacher? Wait, Lin Wu remembered. Senior brother seems to be from the Thug Academy. Then, is teacher also from the Thug Academy? In the sky, Han Fei spread his hands. From today on, I announce that the central city will be merged with the 4 outer cities. From now on, there will only be one city on the Scattered Stars Island, named the City of Justice. Before the million soldiers had any questions, before Shueishenqi asked, Han Fei immediately added, in the future, the City of Justice will accept cultivators from the ordinary people of the 36 towns and the 1,000-star city who come to seek opportunities. At the same time, the City of Justice will build a teleportation hall to the 36 towns. What I want is that anyone can come as long as they want. Anyone can go as long as they want. From now on, the City of Justice will become a paradise for adventurers. For a moment, many people were stunned. Han Fei's decision was 2F** King Bold. In fact, this was also a good way for Han Fei to harvest the power of hope frequently after thinking hard all night. Building a city can't be done in a day or two. Haha, I can harvest the power of hope for a long time in the future. The million soldiers on the Scattered Stars Island were not stupid. Once the Scattered Stars Island became a place where everyone could come and go, it meant that the current system of the Scattered Stars Island was going to be changed. It also meant that there was no need to limit the strength of the people who came to the Scattered Stars Island, and all this was based on one thing. The sea demons were really defeated and didn't dare to come again. The City of Justice, the City of Justice. I support General Han. The City of Justice is everyone's city, not just ours. Han Fei suddenly said, everyone, a new reform has begun. Our human race is going to rise. We're going to become the strongest in this world. I, Han Fei, hope that everyone on this island can become a hidden fisher. I will work hard for this. At this moment, almost everyone was stirred up by Han Fei, attracted by the perfect world described by Han Fei, and their eyes were full of longing. First update, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1456, The City of Justice. Inside the cloud whale, Tang Yin muttered it several times. However, he didn't care too much. Han Fei had good leadership skills and was also belligerent. In this battle, defeating the sea demons was a real achievement. Besides, after several battles, Han Fei's strength almost soared. Tang Yin was very clear about Han Fei's needs. When people didn't know about the power of hope, they all felt that spiritual energy cultivation was the best choice. When they learned about the power of hope, they knew that this kind of cultivation was 10 times, even dozens of times, or even hundreds of times faster than spiritual energy cultivation. Tang Yin could understand that Han Fei was not weak. Once he became a venerable, ordinary venerables would be no match for him. Shueishenqi and Tang Yin had different opinions. He always felt that Han Fei was greedy. Although he knew that Han Fei's purpose was to collect the power of hope, if he collected it every day, no matter how fast the leaks grew, it wouldn't be enough for him. But Han Fei was too powerful at this moment. In the sky, his voice was rolling. Everyone, now there are as many as 3 million sea demons in the outer sea. Is this a lot? Han Fei shouted, not a lot. Let me tell you, it's not a lot at all. In the next year, the City of Justice will reclaim the sea and expand the Scattered Stars Island by another 1,000 kilometers. 30,000 kilometers of the outer sea will be open for cultivation. What I want is for every one of you to be a dragon. Roar, in Han Fei's crazy and stirring voice. The millions of soldiers were also fooled. Who cares? Anyway, General Han killed a lot of enemies and ushered in a great victory for mankind. What General Han said was right. And after the exciting speech, Han Fei also said, from today on, the soldiers of the Scattered Stars Island will implement the principle of voluntariness. You can withdraw from the army, return to the 36 towns, or stay on the island to explore alone. This place will become a paradise for cultivators. A revolution was not something that could be accomplished in a day. A month later, in the 36 arrays, a total of 520 mission halls were built. The mission mode of the City of Justice was once again popular in the human world. In the first few days, the mayors, village chiefs, headmasters, teachers, clan leaders, sect masters, and other leaders of the various villages and towns began to mobilize everyone the moment they returned home. To them, witnessing the crazy war in the City of Justice and the victory of the human race was like witnessing a legendary epic. Especially under Han Fei's instigation, they all clearly felt a problem in their hearts. The City of Justice would become the gathering place of the strongest human beings. It would be a place where it would be easier for him to grow and get opportunities than in the level 3 fishery. Of course, this was only what they felt. Their first priority was to publicize the existence of the City of Justice. Although hundreds of thousands of soldiers from the unknown lands had returned and described what the unknown lands looked like, it was still not enough. However, no matter what, it was not as straightforward as everyone going to see in person. Those who returned to their hometown in advance, on the other hand, were all frustrated after hearing the news that the Scattered Stars Island defeated the sea demons and destroyed the 10,000 Demon Valley. Someone shouted, King knew that coming back in advance was definitely not a good thing. Look, this unprecedented victory is only a few days away from me. How hateful! Some of his companions who had gathered together sneered. Dream on. 10 venerables have died. That's 10 King venerables. I've stayed on the Scattered Stars Island for so long, but I haven't seen any of them. It's not hard to imagine how many people died in this battle. You're a cripple. You'll definitely be beaten to death. The man immediately stretched his neck. Beaten to death? What's wrong? Do you think I'm scared? Didn't you see me when I killed the sea demons with my bare hands? Similar situations could be found everywhere. Cloud Soaring Town, Cloud Soaring Academy. Yu Lingyun had been stunned for a month. She had only been back for a few days, and the battle was over. Sister Lingyun. Wu Xiaoxiao walked close and held Yu Lingyun's arm. Sister Lingyun, the captain has won anyway. The Scattered Stars Island has been liberated and built into a City of Justice. We don't have to fight anymore. Yu Lingyun slightly shook her head. No, this is just the first victory for the Scattered Stars Island. The Sea Demon Venerables haven't been eliminated yet. There are still 3 million sea demons wandering in the vast ocean. Chances are that they will ambush human beings. Wu Xiaoxiao said. How is that possible? They've lost their courage after being beaten by the captain. How dare they invade the City of Justice again? If they piss off the captain, their entire clan will be annihilated. Yu Lingyun took a deep breath. Xiao, this place is not suitable for me. I'm going to fight the ocean. I'm going back. The City of Justice is in dire need of manpower. Xiao, don't underestimate yourself. As long as you work hard, you can become a law enforcer or even pass a tribulation. Wu Xiaoxiao was stunned. Could she really do that in the City of Justice? In the quest hall of the 36 towns, missions had been tried out. However, it was different from the quest hall of the Scattered Stars Island. Most of the missions in the quest hall here were relatively simple. For example, hunting swordfish in the level 1 fishery, searching for spirit-chasing shrimp in the level 2 fishery, collecting sea bamboo trees, and so on were usually not very dangerous. The level 3 fishery, on the other hand, had abundant resources, but not many people accepted the missions. Because at the beginning, many people yearned for the City of Justice and took teleportation arrays to go there. The ticket to the City of Justice was not expensive. It only cost 1 high-quality pearl. 1 high-quality pearl was enough to see the legendary unknown place. How cheap was that? However, as a result, the City of Justice was almost overcrowded. In the sky, many people raised their heads and looked up. It was because a gigantic turtle was flying to the edge of the Scattered Stars Island with a tremendous amount of sand, stones, and soil on its shoulder. Someone was surprised. What turtle is that? Isn't it too big? Someone laughed. What's the fuss about? That's a star turtle. General Han said that it's the guardian of the City of Justice. It's now carrying soil and stones to fill the sea. A newcomer exclaimed, "What? Is the venerable used to carry sand and stones?" The person who was asked was also stunned. He didn't know. However, he casually made up a story. Who knows? The venerable may be too bored. Think about it. He's already so strong. If he goes one step further, he'll become a king. Construction was still going on everywhere, but the pace of recruitment never stopped. People were raising signs and shouting everywhere. The Dangling Guild is recruiting. If you want to go to sea and see the magic of the unknown place, you must come to the Dangling Guild. The Pioneer Regiment sincerely invites strong masters to join us. Don't miss it. Our regiment is escorted by hidden fishers. If you want resources, no one can get them faster than our Pioneer Regiment. The Trans-Island Inspection Team is recruiting. The treatment is generous. It's a rare opportunity for ordinary people to manage the City of Justice. You need to be stronger than a hanging fisher to apply. The Logistics Division is recruiting. Do you want to see the abundant resources of the unknown place? Then come to the Logistics Division. We have all the good things you want. In the City of Justice, there were 3 giant mission halls. Next to each hall, there was a trading house, which was a bundled building for people to quickly obtain the resources they wanted. Since the appearance of the mission hall and the trading house, they had always been full of people. Now, they were urgently expanding and preparing to build 3 more. There was a hubbub here. Next door, the trading house was conducting an equivalent exchange. Dragon's tongue for green spirit fruit, 1-to-1, and the service fee is half. I'll do it. Someone waved his hand, took out his sea-swallowing seashell, grabbed the green spirit fruit, and rushed to the counter. A damaged semi-divine weapon for 10 spiritual fruits of any kind. Anyone want to trade? A refiner's eyes immediately lit up. Come on, I'll trade with you. Someone shouted, I'll give you 11. F***CK. First come, first served. Don't you understand? It was noisy here, and the people next door were not much better. Every time a sign was put up, it was almost sold out on the spot. But some missions were different. For example, a staff member shouted, General Han said that we need to get rid of marine creatures in order to reclaim the city. 10 king worms can be exchanged for a caddy of spiritual spring. 100 king worms can be exchanged for a caddy of spirit awakening fluid. Each person can only get one. This staff member had already been surrounded by many people. A large group of people held up star tokens. Let me go first. *T, don't jump the line. At this moment, someone rushed through the crowd. Get out of the way. I've hunted 100 king worms and come to get the spirit awakening fluid. This is the receipt of the logistics division. When a man left happily with a caddy of spirit awakening fluid, the rest of the people were even more excited and almost pushed the staff out. While the construction of the Scattered Stars Island was in full swing, Han Fei was leading many people to a meeting in the Scattered Stars 6th unit. At this moment, a group of people was quarreling. Someone said, this method of currency is used in the world. Compared to the pearls of today, it is slightly different. But if it's dual currency, people will definitely trust pearls. Someone said, the 36 towns can't use it for the time being. People don't trust us yet. Many people regard money as treasures and can't give it up. It's hard. Someone sneered. It can be used in the City of Justice, right? We don't need to spread it to the 1,000-star city and the 36 towns at the beginning. As long as it can be popularized in the City of Justice, it will eventually spread out. Someone said, now, I'm afraid it's not the right time. Once the Zhang family uses pearl currency to disrupt the market, how can we deal with it? Han Fei was confused and immediately said, be quiet, be quiet. When everyone quieted down, Han Fei said, this matter needs to be dealt with slowly. Whether it's pearls or the new coins, they will have a far-reaching impact. Now, the City of Justice will adopt the new coins. It's decided. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. In the past few months, Han Fei was really busy. The City of Justice was built by him, so he had to be responsible for it. And in the past 3 months, Han Fei's power of hope had condensed into a milky white, flame-shaped ball in his body. It should be because he had accumulated too much power of hope. Han Fei knew that it was time to reach the peak of the semi-venerable realm. Without absolute strength, the City of Justice was nothing but an illusion. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1457. It had been 3 months since he became a semi-venerable, but in fact, half a year had passed in Forge the Universe. In the past 6 months, Han Fei had been nourishing himself with a small amount of wish power every day. Because the gap from the peak of Dao seeking to a semi-venerable was actually not very big, it was just a difference in understanding of the Great Way. Therefore, Han Fei could temporarily push himself to be the strongest. The Scattered Stars Island was already on the right track, and what was missing was time. Because it was a brand new pattern created by Han Fei, there were actually a lot of people trying it. Among them, except for the 36 towns, the disciples of the 7 major sects began to enter the Scattered Stars Island on a large scale. The open environment of the City of Justice was too suitable for everyone to grow up. As long as you had the strength and courage to travel in the sea, there was no reason not to grow up. On the contrary, the big clans of the Thousand Star City were not so lucky. When the City of Justice recruited people, the citizens spontaneously began to be hostile to the disciples of the big clans of the Thousand Star City. It could be said that except for some special families, no disciples of the big clans came to the Scattered Stars Island. Of course, even so, countless people came to the Thousand Star City. Unlike before, if people from the Scattered Stars Island wanted to go to the Thousand Star City, they had to take the Sky Ladder. Now, if people from the Thousand Star City wanted to go to the Scattered Stars Island, they had to be interrogated. In front of the teleportation array, a large array appeared, and all those who came from the Thousand Star City had to enter the array to be interrogated. In this way, a large number of spies sent by the big clans have been discovered. These people were all repatriated. Han Fei was very satisfied with the current situation. Because Shueishenqi was too familiar with the affairs of the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei specially invited Shueishenqi to serve as the defense officer of the City of Justice. Today, after being dragged out for a day of meetings, Han Fei realized that the current City of Justice was very similar to the City of Justice in history. He deeply knew that in the development of such a city, the position of the City Lord was actually symbolic. Since he announced the establishment of the City of Justice, although he might have become more famous, the collection of wish power had slowed down. In the past 6 months of cultivation, the consumption of wish power was even slightly greater than the harvest. Han Fei knew that the City of Justice needed to return to the natural development of a city. The laws and restrictions of the higher-ups had worked, and now it was up to these adventurers. The General's Mansion. With a thought, Han Fei scanned the new Empyrean waterfall, which was built by the Star Tortoise. At this moment, the Star Tortoise had occupied a piece of land in the Empyrean waterfall. The tortoise must have been depressed for a long time, so it sneaked into the crowd to have fun during the day. Senior Star Turtle, why don't you pay a visit to my residence? The Star Tortoise, who was tasting the Liehua liquor, frowned. What's up? Nothing. I just want to arrange a position for you and help you experience the pleasure of being a tortoise. The Star Tortoise was puzzled. He wasn't an idiot, so if the highest commander invited him, it definitely wouldn't be anything good. If it weren't for the fact that it had been used to the Scattered Stars Island and found the Scattered Stars Island's reform interesting, it might have slipped away. Han Fei sneered. Do you think I can eat you? If I tell you to come, then come. Your strength is a whole realm lower than mine. What's there to worry about? The Star Tortoise really wanted to roll its eyes. An entire realm higher than you? Are you kidding me? You've killed more than a dozen venerables. How can I not be worried? Han Fei ignored it and shouted, Little Nine, come to the General's Mansion. Zhou Yinling was tempering her body. She had been preparing for the tribulation in the past few months. Hearing Han Fei's call, she was overjoyed and went straight to the residence. A moment later, in the residence, what? Pretend to be the highest commander? I can't do that. I can only be a tortoise, not the highest commander. Go to Shueishenqi. The Star Tortoise turned around and was about to leave, but Han Fei's words scared it out of its wits. Han Fei wanted it to pretend to be the highest commander? Didn't he know that 80% of the previous highest commanders died in battle, and only 10% died of old age? Jiu Ling also looked at Han Fei in surprise, wondering where he was going this time. Jiu Ling had been alone with Han Fei for a few years and knew him very well. Han Fei was an impatient person. Now that Han Fei was going to give up the position of the Supreme Commander for the time being, it meant that Han Fei had something to do. Jiu Ling seemed to have guessed something. Han Fei was probably not interested in the sea outside the Scattered Stars Island, although there was still the Sea Monster Army and the Sea Monster Venerable outside. However, the Star Tortoise had already broken through, and the Sea Demons had lost more than half of their strength. No matter how courageous they were, they wouldn't dare to invade. With Han Fei's strength, it was meaningless to find trouble with these sea monsters. It wouldn't help Han Fei become a venerable. Although Jiu Ling didn't know what level one had to reach to become a venerable one, it wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. He had never heard of anyone becoming a venerable just because they liked to fight. Therefore, there was only one place Han Fei could go, and that was the Thousand Star City. 3:15 Chinese net. Han Fei immediately said solemnly, "Senior Star Turtle, I guess you know something about the secrets of this sea. You have nowhere to go. There's the Sea Demon Venerable outside. There's no place for you. You can't go any further. If you still don't help me on the Scattered Stars Island, there will be no place for you in this vast ocean. Don't forget who protected you 3 months ago." The Star Turtle paused and looked back in embarrassment. "Then why do I have to pretend to be the Supreme Commander?" Han Fei smiled. "You are the one who has the closest contact with the previous Supreme Commanders on the Scattered Stars Island. You know how to be a commander. I don't need you to pretend to be the Supreme Commander for long. Just wait for me to come back." The Star Turtle rolled his eyes. "How long will you be gone?" Han Fei replied. "A few months at best, a year at worst. It won't be long." In Han Fei's mind, time was very slow. A year was a long time. He wouldn't be gone for long. He was only going to become a venerable one and crack some secrets. How long could it take? The Star Turtle pondered for a long time. Then, "I'll pretend to be you for a year at most. If you don't come back, I'll go to Shueishenqi." Han Fei grinned. "No problem. Okay, I'll teach you a great technique called the art of deception. It's your reward." Throwing a jade slip to the Star Turtle, Han Fei waved his hand and took Jiu Ling 1,000 kilometers away. In the transverse mountain, Han Fei said, "Xiao Jiu, I need you to do something for me." However, Jiu Ling asked, "Are you going to the Thousand Star City?" Han Fei was briefly stunned. "How do you know?" Jiu Ling immediately gasped. "Do you know that the Thousand Star City is a huge mudflat right now? Everyone is waiting for you, but you're jumping into it yourself?" Jiu Ling had always been a gentle girl, but at this moment, even she couldn't help but lose her temper. She didn't know why Han Fei was so urgent. She seemed to realize that her tone was too harsh. Jiu Ling finally calmed herself down and said slowly, "Why?" Seeing her solemnity, Han Fei said, "You can't become a king too slowly. The timing is a little secret that you don't know. I have a feeling that our world is about to break free from the cage, and the Black Killer Snail may make a comeback. He wouldn't be at the half-king realm any longer, and he would be a true king, an existence that could crush 1,000 stars and sweep through all invincible existences." Seeing that Han Fei was so serious, Jiu Ling looked at him for a moment and sighed. "Okay, I feel that you're always busy. Maybe the years in the Wind and Rain Village were the happiest years of my life." Without saying anything, Jiu Ling raised her head and asked, "What do you need me to do?" In fact, Han Fei's feelings for Jiu Ling had never exceeded the limit. He just regarded her as a friend like Luo Xiaobai and the others. Han Fei changed the topic. "Go to the Blue Sea town and call old Jiang for me. I've given him a piece of land on the Scattered Stars Island. It's very valuable." 3 days passed. In Forge the Universe, Han Fei sat cross-legged on the ground, enshrouded in a blue and white mist. In his mind, the little squares were uncovered one after another and were memorized. Crack, 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 the 1,000th hum. Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes, opened his mouth, and took a deep breath. Something flashed, and a picture of clothes appeared in front of his eyes. In this picture, a person was approaching from far away, from small to large, as if from 1,000 kilometers away, someone was stabbing at him with a spear light. This spear light pierced the center of his eyebrows, and Han Fei was really stunned. Almost at that moment, Han Fei felt that he was in an illusory world, standing proudly above the void. There was a vague and invisible figure who reached out and stabbed the center of his eyebrows with a spear light. The spear light shattered the void for 1,000 kilometers, as if the tip of the spear had pierced his heart. At that moment, Han Fei felt that the center of his eyebrows was about to explode. He didn't even have a chance to dodge and was stabbed by the spear. At this moment, the God-scaring painting was completed. Han Fei completely forgot about the soul-stunning spike at this moment. In his eyes, there was a strange light. In his eyes, it was all this terrifying attack. The power of the spear could kill the soul regardless of distance. Chapter 1458. Although that thought was illusory and didn't exist at all, but the moment the spear light stretched out, Han Fei felt that he had been defeated. The other party was too fast for him to keep up with. Of course, although he was defeated, it didn't mean that the demon purification pot would be defeated. However, every time he felt that he was invincible in the same realm, a new power would always appear and defeat him, telling him that he was not the strongest. He was stunned for about half an hour. Han Fei closed his eyes, and a piece of information appeared in his mind. God-killing spike, venerable level, divine quality. Introduction. This is a God-killing treasure technique. All the spear techniques in the world belong to a wisp of the soul of the spear. If the spear has a soul, it can destroy gods and demons, break time and space, and nothing can stop it. If you want to use the God-killing spike, you must first refine the soul of the spear. When the spear is launched, it can pierce through time, space, and light. However, there is one shortcoming and it may be broken. Deduce start. Unknown deduction consumption. 10 wisps of chaos energy drawback. This technique can't be mastered in a day. God-killing treasure technique? When Han Fei saw this spear light, he knew that this technique was not simple. At his current level, it was very difficult for him to find a technique that he couldn't resist at all. And this God-killing spike was one of them. After quickly browsing through the God-killing spike, Han Fei immediately smiled bitterly. This technique was still too difficult. He had only learned a little about piercing through time, which was Zhang Xuanyu's exclusive skill. But if he worked hard, he should be able to learn momentary time. As for piercing through the void, it didn't seem difficult, but it was very difficult to hit 1,000 kilometers away. However, if he only pierced through 100 kilometers, it wouldn't be a problem. He could complete the first two, but why did he have to pierce through light for the last one? Han Fei definitely wouldn't think that it was as simple as blocking light. After reading the detailed cultivation method, Han Fei was speechless. This required a spear light that could swallow light. Gulp! Han Fei swallowed and said helplessly, "It's too difficult. This is too King difficult. Are you okay?" The old turtle noticed Han Fei's confusion and knew that Han Fei had woken up from his cultivation, but he seemed to have been slapped by someone. Was there a problem? Han Fei quickly came back to himself. "Oh, I'm fine. The god-slaying stab couldn't be mastered in a day or two. But the god-scaring painting had been completed, and this perception break had almost sent his perception ability to the peak." Han Fei glanced at his personal information, and his eyelids slightly twitched. Although his spiritual power didn't increase, his perception range increased from 8,000 kilometers to 9,999 kilometers. That was because the bottleneck had been locked. Unless he made a breakthrough, he couldn't improve it anymore. After leaving the Scattered Stars Island for 3 days, Han Fei felt that he had reached the limits of the demi-venerable level. Originally, apart from the Great Tao, the comprehensive strength of a demi-venerable and a peak-level explorer was about the same. However, it was precisely this Great Tao power that was the key to success or failure. Han Fei looked up. "Old Yuan, once I go, I will become a venerable. I have different thoughts from old Han. If there is a chance in the future, I can take away a part of your memory and release you. Therefore, during this trip, if you reach a critical moment, you must not slack off. The old turtle rolled his eyes and thought to himself, "Do you think you can let me go? Even if you dare to say it, I don't dare to believe it." The old turtle said leisurely, "I'm too weak. I'm not much stronger than you now. Even if I use the chaotic energy, I won't be much stronger than you." Han Fei sneered. "What I need is not your strength, but your insight, Thousand Star City." Recently, prices had soared in the Thousand Star City, mainly because there were no more things transported back from the Scattered Stars Island and a Level 3 fishery. Once these two resource giants were gone, a large number of resources in the Thousand Star City were no longer supplied. When a major distributors ran out of stock, the market changed from a buyer's market to a seller's market. As long as there was something suitable, the price could be set high. After all, there was no need to be afraid that no one would buy it. In the Thousand Star City, there were plenty of rich people. It was unknown who spread the news of the City of Justice to the Thousand Star City. Immediately, all kinds of gossip flew all over the sky and soon swept through the entire Thousand Star City like a tsunami. For a moment, countless people wanted to go to the lower world, to the City of Justice, and to the Scattered Stars Island. However, the teleportation array of the Scattered Stars Island had activated an extremely strict review mechanism, resulting in the number of people who passed the test every day at most. This made the huge army that descended to the mortal world slowly feel the malice, especially when some descendants of the big clans pretended to be ordinary people and were discovered and sent back. Countless people were furious. Zhang Tao. At this moment, he was standing in the middle of the enchanting array. There were thousands of anomalies in the array, and a voice was rolling in his head like thunder. Zhang Tao, from the double immortal island of the Thousand Star City, an itinerant cultivator, a junior dangling fisher. When a string of information burst out, there seemed to be a power in the voice that was shaking his head. "Where are you from?" Zhang Tao struggled between his eyebrows. When the enchanting power was activated, a white light flashed between his eyebrows and broke through the illusion. Zhang Tao suddenly opened his eyes, revealing ecstasy. Immediately, he rolled his eyes. "I'm from the double immortal island of the Thousand Star City." "Which family are you from?" When a second question was asked, Zhang Tao laughed disdainfully and said proudly, "I'm an ordinary resident of the double immortal island. Relying on the Leaf family of the double immortal island, I often spend money to buy the trial rights of the Leaf family's trial field. Recently, I've really run out of money. These big clans are too cruel." Sure enough, Zhang Tao listened carefully. After a while, the third question came. "What's your real purpose in coming to the Thousand Star City?" Zhang Tao thought to himself. The normal answer is, of course, to become stronger and for resources. Just as Zhang Tao was about to say so, a voice suddenly rang out. "This soul-enchanting three-questions array was personally invented by this marshal, yet you actually have a way to avoid this martial spirit array. It seems you have the help of a mysterious artifact." "Who? Commander Han?" Zhang Tao had a look of contempt just now, but at this moment he was horrified, and his heart seemed to be galloping with 10,000 iron-headed fish. He thought to himself, F***CK, the Venerable of the Scattered Stars Island, is personally guarding the teleportation array and interrogating the newcomers one by one. Isn't this Supreme Commander 2F** King boring? While sighing, Zhang Tao thought to himself, "Oh no, this time it's over. How can I run back?" Swish! Zhang Tao saw a figure suddenly appear in front of him. When he looked up, he saw a young man sneering. In the next moment, Zhang Tao felt that his soul no longer belonged to him, and the immortal seal in his body was instantly broken. Han Fei had been waiting here for a day and deliberately let a member of the Zhang family come here. How could it not be right? At this moment, as soon as the soul-searching technique was used, a soul-type secret treasure immediately tried to self-destruct, but the soul-type secret treasure was caught by the void lines and directly torn into pieces. It didn't have any effect at all. Zhang Tao, a foreign disciple of the Zhang family. What an excellent foreign disciple. What a pity. Under Han Fei's feet, the phantom of a mountain and river appeared, and Zhang Tao was directly thrown in. Han Fei said, "Tree spirit, tie him up and don't let him self-destruct." Yes, master. After instructing Tree Spirit with a thought, Han Fei began to shrink, and his realm plummeted to that of a junior hidden fisher. His skin became whiter, and his body became fatter. Han Fei used the deception technique incisively and vividly. Plop, there were only a total of 8 entrances to the Scattered Stars Island in the Thousand Star City. Excluding those islands that were uninhabited, there was only one teleportation array for every 3 islands. However, no matter which teleportation array it was already crowded. Suddenly, a person flew out of the teleportation array from the dual Immortal Island to the Scattered Stars Island, vomiting blood. Immediately, many people moved aside and watched Zhang Tao roll dozens of times on the ground. The big clans are really unwilling to give up. There are already so many of them, and they still want to send more people in. Since the Scattered Stars Island has fallen out with the big clans, they naturally have a way to know who is from the big clans. Trying to muddle through? What is this person thinking? Someone shouted, "What the hell? You know you can't pass, but you insist on occupying a spot. Believe it or not, I'll beat you to death." Some people directly attacked, slashing out blades, and some took out long swords. For a moment, blades and swords danced wildly, and many people really wanted to cut Zhang Tao into halves. But for the aristocratic families, they would dare to make a fuss. But if they were directly killed, no one here would dare to do so. Zhang Tao, however, jumped out in a hurry with a gloomy face. Looking back, he muttered to himself, "It shouldn't be. That array can shatter a secret treasure." Soon after Zhang Tao escaped, a person suddenly appeared next to him. The person, dressed in a green robe, stood next to Zhang Tao, looked at the crowd, and said casually, "You are the 1078th example of the Zhang family's failure. I thought your soul treasure was not bad, but you were killed directly. Okay, go back to your family. It seems that the Scattered Stars Island has been prepared for this." "Hey, yes, Master Qing, that soul confusion array was too terrifying. It didn't seem to be an ordinary array. Even my soul treasure was torn apart. Please help me, Master Qing." The steward impatiently tossed a small token to him and said, "Go back and take a look at the warehouse yourself. Find something to make up for it." "That's enough." Han Fei took the token and smiled inwardly. "Zhang Mingquan, I promised you that I would come sooner or later. Now I'm here." Chapter 1459. Last time, the Faceless Man's attack on the Thousand Star City was doomed to fail. The number of venerables that appeared last time was far less than the number of venerables that appeared on the Scattered Stars Island. This showed that there were still venerables hiding in this giant city. As for their hidden goal, no one knew what it was. The Zhang family had already lost a venerable, and then Zhang Jihua appeared, who was only at the peak of the elementary level. The one who could challenge Old Han and the others should be an advanced venerable of the Zhang family. In other words, there were at least 3 venerables in the Zhang family before, and now there were at least 2 venerables. This was a big family that had survived for thousands of years. The wealth of the family was gathered, and there were many descendants in the family. There would always be heavenly talents. Han Fei returned to the Zhang family as Zhang Tao. After completely reading Zhang Tao's life experience and personality, Han Fei smiled slightly. This Zhang Tao was a relatively outstanding figure among the foreign disciples. Because he obtained an opportunity in the trial field, he stood out among his peers. However, even if he was a heavenly talent among the foreign disciples, he was still a branch of the main family and couldn't enter the eyes of the main family. And it was very difficult for such a foreign disciple to enter the Zhang family's treasure house. This Zhang Tao had only entered the Zhang family's treasure house once in his life when he was a hanging fisher and a hidden fisher, and he only took 3 things from them. It was the Zhang family's treasure house that Han Fei saw from Zhang Tao's memory. But then he licked the corner of his mouth, as expected of a big family that had been recorded for thousands of years. Although Zhang Tao couldn't enter the depths of the treasure house, there were countless treasures on the periphery. Han Fei saw things such as trivariant golden ginseng, semi-divine weapons, battle suit sets, protective arts, heaven-level combat skills, advanced energy fruits, and so on. These are all good things, but the big families seemed to believe in the way of raising and training, which meant that they couldn't give all the good things to you. Otherwise, if they gave you all the good things, wouldn't you become a useless person? Because generally, people who entered could only take 3 things at most. As for which 3 things, it was up to the person who entered. The Zhang family. A family known as the richest family of the Thousand Stars was located in the central area of the Gold Island, surrounded by 8 mountains. On these mountains, it was the place where the juniors of the Zhang family trained. Surrounded by mountains was the Zhang clan's main residence, which occupied an area of more than 500 square kilometers. Beyond that were the branches of the Zhang clan, separated by the Great River. The main branch was clearly separated, and no one was allowed to overstep their boundaries. At this moment, in the residence of the patriarch of the Zhang clan, the Zhang family's patriarch, Zhang Wanjin, looked at the Zhang Tao who had returned and frowned. You said that the soul confusion formation shattered your soul secret treasure? Is your divine soul all right? Han Fei pretended to be respectful and hurriedly said, Master, no. That's just an array formation. There's no one presiding over it, or rather, I didn't even see the person presiding over it before I was blasted back. Zhang Wanjin sat on the patriarch's chair and snorted, Humph. All right, you've done your best. Go to the 3rd layer's treasury and look for 3. And, for the sake of your soul artifact shattering, find 5 things. Hearing this, Han Fei was excited and hurriedly said, Thank you, Master. When Han Fei turned around, his eyes lit up, thinking that the art of deception was really good. With his current ability, it was easy for him to deceive a guy like Zhang Wanjin. Even an advanced venerable of the Zhang family couldn't tell him apart. Leaving the main residence, Han Fei went straight to the treasury on the east side. The Zhang family's treasury was also known as the Zhang family's pagoda. It was not until he reached this place that Han Fei discovered, to his surprise, that the Lingling treasure tower was the work of the Zhang family. In the 36 towns, the exquisite treasure pagoda could be found, but it had always been said that the exquisite treasure pagoda was only established by a large chamber of commerce in the 36 towns. Han Fei didn't expect that the Zhang family in the Thousand Star City was the source of the rumor. However, different from the regular exquisite treasure pagoda, the one that Han Fei saw was not exquisite at all. It was a black 6-floored octagonal pagoda. It didn't look big at all. Theoretically speaking, it shouldn't be the Zhang family's treasury at all. However, judging from its shape, Han Fei knew that there must be another world in the tower, or at least another space. Staring at Zhang Tao's leather bag, Han Fei came to the pagoda openly. When he entered the treasury, a sleepy explorer old man saw Han Fei and didn't even greet him. Han Fei quickly handed out his token. Senior, the master asked me to find 5 useful things. The old man seemed to be half asleep. He nodded and said, Go to the left side of the door and pass 2 teleportation arrays. Find them yourself. Yes, senior. In the Zhang family, Zhang Tao, a junior from another clan, was naturally not familiar with the guardian of the Zhang family's treasury. Therefore, it was only natural for Han Fei to call him senior. When Han Fei was about to enter the door, he suddenly heard a crisp voice behind him. 6 Grandpa, I'm here to return the classics of the clan. Can I borrow a few more, by the way? The old man immediately grinned. Yo, it's Xiao Xiao. Why not? You can choose whatever you want on the 3rd floor. Don't be so distant. It was a slim and graceful girl. Next to the girl were 2 boys of the same age. They seemed to be here to escort her. Han Fei glanced at her and immediately had an impression of her. This girl seemed to be the little girl who came out of the sea quelling painting, right? He didn't expect that she had grown so big in the blink of an eye. As if noticing Han Fei's gaze, a young man next to Zhang Qiao immediately shouted, What are you looking at? As a junior from another clan, you have a chance to enter the treasury. What are you waiting for? The old man who was called 6 Grandpa also glanced at Han Fei casually. You can go in now. Han Fei cupped his hands. Yes. Zhang Qiao, on the other hand, didn't feel anything. She glanced at Han Fei as if he were a stranger who had just passed by. When Han Fei entered the treasury, he immediately appeared in a super large storage room with no end in sight. To be precise, it was more like a chic library or collection hall. There were wooden bookshelves with all kinds of battle skills and secret techniques on them. There were also sealed holes with halos flowing around them, as if one had to break through the layers of halos in order to get to the things inside. There were also display shelves of different heights with all kinds of exhibits on them, shining brightly. Han Fei swore that if Master Hexagon Starfish saw this treasury, it would definitely be stunned. Han Fei asked the old turtle in his heart, "Old Yuan, is there a venerable guarding this tower? How strong is he?" Of course, Han Fei didn't believe that the Zhang family's treasury would be unguarded. How could there be no venerable guarding such an important place? As everyone knew, the Zhang family was a 1,000-star tycoon. If there were no strong masters guarding this place, how could they guard this fortune? The old turtle said, "There are no guards on the lower floors, but there is an independent small building on the 6th floor. There is the aura of a strong master there. Judging by the aura, that person must be at least an advanced peak-level venerable." Han Fei was slightly relieved. That's good. The strength of an advanced peak-level venerable was actually comparable to that of the heavenly sword master, only one step away from the peak level. It was impossible for Han Fei to defeat such a strong master in a head-on fight, unless he had the power of half a king and could kill the other party easily. But Han Fei hadn't become a venerable yet, so he certainly didn't have that ability. He could only think about how to rob the Zhang family's treasury. A treasury that was guarded by an advanced venerable didn't need anyone else to guard it. Besides, this treasury was in the hinterland of the Zhang family. Within 1,000 kilometers, there were other venerables, so he didn't have to worry that someone would rob the Zhang family's treasury. Swish! Han Fei crossed 2 teleportation arrays in a row and came directly to the 3rd floor of the treasury. Not surprisingly, this floor of the treasure vault was specially designed for hidden fissures. Obviously different from the 1st floor of the treasury, there weren't many combat skills and arts on this floor, but all kinds of weapons. From ultra-quality spiritual weapons to divine weapons and even ultra-quality divine weapons, there was everything. There were also all kinds of spiritual fruits, crystals, spiritual springs, spirit awakening fluid, sea demon corpses. Han Fei didn't intend to loot the entire treasury now. It was meaningless. These things were no different from waste to him. What he wanted was the 7th level of the void fishing art. This great technique was his real pursuit. Once he got it, it would be more meaningful than looting the Zhang family's treasury. Of course, it would be even better if he could loot the Zhang family's treasury. The hidden fissure-level treasury stretched for dozens of kilometers. Han Fei pretended to wander inside. He knew that someone was watching him at this moment. If he took one more, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, in fact, Han Fei was just looking for an opportunity to use the Gemini divine technique. After half an hour, in a corner of the treasury, Xiao Xiao, this silk 1,000-thread technique is a heaven-level high-quality combat skill, most suitable for girls to cultivate. Ordinary people with spiritual heritage can't cultivate it at all, but you are different. With a level 7 spiritual heritage, you can definitely cultivate it. Xiao Xiao. Here is a 10,000 spirit pearl. As a spirit gatherer, this thing can help you store spiritual energy. You can have spiritual energy in reserve in times of war. This is a good thing. The 2 boys were chasing the little girl to show off their treasures, but the girl didn't seem to hear them at all. She walked forward quickly and seemed to want to get rid of them. Suddenly, the little girl saw that the man who entered the door with her was looking at a calligraphy and painting flying on a square cabinet. However, there was a seal on the calligraphy and painting. Zhang Xiaoqiao couldn't help but be curious. She had seen this painting before. There shouldn't be anything special about it, right? Immediately, Zhang Xiaoqiao went straight over and asked, "This painting is just a killing array. It's a disposable item. Do you want me to take it for you?" Next to Zhang Xiaoqiao, a boy said, "Xiaoqiao's help is not needed. I have to do it." Another person said, "Go away. Do you have the ability to take it? Let me do it." Han Fei tilted his head and glanced at her. This is not a killing array. This is a visualization painting. First, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1460. Huh? The two boys suddenly became angry, and one of them said, "What? Are you saying that our Qiao Qiao made a mistake?" "Yes. Outsider boy, I'll give you a chance to reorganize your words. Is this a killing array or a visualization painting?" Han Fei looked indifferent. "This painting looks like a killing array, but if you look closely inside, the outer layer of ink is too thick as if it is covering something. Arrays are generally not drawn like this. So, there should be another layer below this painting." Zhang Qiaoqiao's eyes lit up, and she couldn't help but look at Han Fei up and down. Under the glares of the two boys beside her, she asked curiously, "Then how do you know that this painting is a visualization painting?" Han Fei smiled gently. "Look, if you don't look at it, just look at the lines and words. Doesn't this painting look like a starfish? Pentagonal starfish. This shape looks like a formation, but what if it is a creature visualization painting?" One of the boys was also slightly shocked. This outer disciple is really something. However, this person's status was still too low. One of the boys said, "You said this is a visualization painting? Okay, if it is not, you can't take anything from the treasure house today." Yang Qiao shouted, "Yang Kong, Yang Cheng, can you two be more mature?" Zhang Qiao looked at Han Fei. "Sorry, I'm just curious about what kind of visualization painting this is. After you break it, can you let me have a look?" Han Fei smiled slightly. "I found this thing first. If you want to see it, how about helping me break it?" Suddenly, the two boys were angry. They had never seen such a shameless person. How dare he ask a girl to help him break the array? Zhang Qiao smiled faintly, but in her heart, she looked down on Han Fei. She just wanted to see it, not to take it. But this person asked her to break the array because she couldn't open it. Seeing that Zhang Qiao didn't respond, Han Fei said lightly, "Miss, can't you open it?" "Son of AB asterisk TCH, what are you talking about? Is there anything that our Qiao cannot open?" "B asterisk starred, which outsider are you? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Even Zhang Qiao felt surprised. She had always been surrounded by people who flattered her. She didn't expect to meet someone different today. Seeing that Han Fei was not afraid at all, Zhang Qiao immediately shouted, "Shut up, you two. Let me see just how difficult this restriction is." In the next moment, a silver needle appeared in each of Zhang Qiao's hands. Swish, swish, swish. Ding, ding, ding. In an instant, hundreds of stab marks appeared on the seal, and the seal was densely packed with pinhole-sized damage. At this moment, Han Fei scratched his nose and saw a flash of spiritual energy on the seal. The silver needles controlled by Zhang Qiao were affected by the seal and accidentally collided with each other. Bang! In an instant, an explosion occurred. The silver needle weapon and the seal were destroyed together. Han Fei, Zhang Qiao, and the others were sent flying dozens of meters by the sudden explosion. Bang! Han Fei knocked over a water cabinet and saw that at the moment of the explosion, a big hand twisted the explosion. Zhang Qiao was sent flying, embarrassed and angry. She didn't expect that she would make such a fool of herself today because of her poor skills. Zhang Qiao said, "Thank you, Grandpa 6. The old man smiled and said, "It's okay. Qiao, you can continue to look at it. Although this painting is a visualization painting, it's actually not a good thing for you." The two boys who were sent flying had already climbed up with a grunt. They looked around and immediately fixed their eyes on Han Fei. The man threatened, "Boy, don't tell anyone about what happened today." Han Fei shrugged. "I don't have the habit of speaking ill of others behind their backs." Han Fei quickly got up, but he didn't see anyone. At the moment of the explosion, the moment Han Fei fell down, a shadow had already been lurking. At this moment, the painting had been opened. Hearing Han Fei's words, Zhang Qiao tried to uncover the painting. Sure enough, she saw a starfish map below. As soon as she saw this picture, Zhang Qiao seemed to immediately compare it with the visualization painting she cultivated in her heart. Zhang Qiao shook her head slightly. The two were about the same, but this one was a little worse. Zhang Qiao said, "This painting is yours. However, I hope you can be more above board next time. If you can't get it, You should find someone else to take it. The two boys next to Zhang Qiao didn't scold her this time, but gloated. One of them said, Qiao, the descendants of other clans have always been like this. Don't take it to heart. The other said, yes, Qiao, the descendants of other clans are scheming. This time, I've cheated you. Don't forget it next time. After Zhang Qiao and the others left, Han Fei shook his head slightly. She used to be quite sensible, but now she was also contaminated by the aura of a descendant of a big clan. However, her attitude was not right. Sure enough, the big clans were a place that could corrupt people's hearts. However, Han Fei didn't take it to heart. His purpose had been achieved. He quickly found an energy fruit, a battle suit, a long knife, and a heaven-level high-quality secret technique. In the eyes of outsiders, these things and a visualization painting were definitely a great harvest for Han Fei. When leaving the treasury, Han Fei went to the door again and said respectfully to Grandpa Six, Senior, I've chosen the 5 items. Humph. Lucky boy, go ahead. Yes, Senior. After he left the main family, no one paid attention to Han Fei, a nobody. Even so, Han Fei pretended to be cautious and quickly returned to his home, closed the door, and immediately began to ponder the visualization painting. Late at night, a black shadow quietly appeared on the 4th floor of the Zhang family's treasury. There must be a mechanism when the teleportation array was activated. But this treasury could be a small world at any time, but it couldn't be separated from the laws of nature. If there was a teleportation array, there would naturally be a normal entrance. Han Fei quietly bypassed this floor and immediately said to the old turtle, Old Yuan, remember one thing. Don't care about anything else. Just help me find the 7th level of the true spirit fishing art. The old turtle was puzzled. You sneaked in just to find a technique? Han Fei sneered. You don't understand. How could something I found in person be bad? The old turtle thought for a moment. What kind of person was Han Fei? If it wasn't something absolutely important to him, why would he enter the enemy's camp and forcefully take it? A moment later, the old turtle said, No, this emperor is certain that the strongest cultivation technique on this floor is only a top-grade heaven-rank cultivation technique. There is nothing stronger. Han Fei asked, Is there such a name in the heaven-level low-quality and heaven-level mid-quality? Old turtle, no. Han Fei's heart sank. Let's continue. There are 2 more floors up. I don't believe I can't find it. On the 5th floor, Han Fei stayed at the entrance. His body was completely attached to the shadow, and ordinary people couldn't find him at all. He would scan their own treasure vault over and over again. Even if he did, he might not be able to find it. Han Fei was drooling at this moment. This floor was actually reserved for the explorers, although most of them were useless to him. However, they were all very expensive, especially the spiritual fruit vault. He could give up everything else, but he couldn't lack energy fruits. He could rely on this to help him become a venerable. After a moment, the old turtle said, Next floor. The 6th floor was different from the previous floors. On this floor, when Han Fei just found the entrance, he felt something was wrong. This place was shrouded by the pressure of a strong master. Even the appearance of a thin hair would be detected. Han Fei said, Old Yuan, it's up to you. The old turtle was speechless, but there was nothing he could do. Han Fei had already come to court death. A layer of black mist suddenly descended, shaped like a turtle shell. Turtle shell sky sealing technique. The old turtle said, I've sealed a 10-kilometer space. It can be said that this entire treasury is under my control. Release your soul and look for it quickly. Then run away quickly. Hearing this, Han Fei didn't dare to neglect. He scanned with his perception and immediately found all the cultivation technique manuals on this floor. He had to admit that the Zhang clan was indeed a big clan that had existed for millions of years. There were as many as 2,168 venerable realm cultivation techniques on this floor. Han Fei scanned with his perception and immediately saw the 6th and 7th floors of the true spirit fishing art, neatly arranged again. Phew! Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the Zhang family didn't discover the secret of the true spirit fishing art and just stored it as an ordinary cultivation technique. However, Han Fei couldn't just take this one. Han Fei waved his hand and swept away all the cultivation techniques. Then, a large number of spiritual fruits were swept away. Wherever he went, everything was swept away. There was a venerable realm fishbone sealed in a restriction. Han Fei teleported, entered the restriction, and collected the venerable bone. There is a spiritual medicine with a strange light called the heaven-breaking pill. It must be extraordinary. There is also a pill called the enlightenment pill. There were only 3 in the entire Zhang family. How could Han Fei put away? He continued. In addition, Han Fei found a total of 3 incomplete sea-quelling bizarre treasures and a complete long whip, which was a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Han Fei beamed with joy. Whip weapons are most suitable for Luo Xiaobai. Collect. After a while, Han Fei's Forge the Universe was filled with all kinds of rare treasures. When all the places were cleaned up, the rest, no matter what was left, was extremely dazzling. And on the top floor of the Zhang family's treasure house, there were not many things that could be ignored by Han Fei here. And now in front of Han Fei's eyes, there was one. A black bead, covered with dust, rolled into a corner on the ground. When he saw the bead, Han Fei was slightly confused, wondering why there was a bead in the middle of a pile of treasures. Was it left behind? Forget it. Let's take it away first. The second one, asking for votes. The third one is a little later, before 8 o'clock. Let me recover. Mwah. End of this chapter. Chapter 1461. If Han Fei wanted to leave, the turtle shell heaven sealing technique would be activated. The old turtle said, "If you leave now, you'll probably be exposed." Han Fei said disdainfully, "So what? It doesn't matter if they find me. I'll come to the 1,000-star city sooner or later, and I'll rob the Zhang family sooner or later. As the saying goes, strike the iron while it's hot. I'll kill them now, so that they won't have to come again later." Even Han Fei himself didn't know whether his black fog body had been discovered or not. At least, his black fog body could be discovered as long as he focused enough. With that, Han Fei took out the venerable token. Outside, on the pure Sun Island, the void was broken, and the aura of a strong master bloomed. As soon as the void was broken, many people in the 1,000-star city suddenly opened their eyes. The pure Sun Island was the territory of the Thug Academy. Although it had been pushed down several times, so what? The war that took place on this land announced to the outside world that no matter whether the Thug Academy was here or not, this place was the territory of the Thug Academy. As early as when the big clans of the 1,000-star city returned to the 1,000-star city, they had already included this place in the scope of inspection. The Chu sect and Old Monster Chu immediately looked at this place. The Venerables saw a graceful figure pointing her jade-like hand here, and an array map appeared. Old Monster Chu immediately took action. He crossed the void and grabbed the graceful figure. In fact, only Old Monster Chu could be so fast. This was the unique power of a half-king realm powerhouse. Peaceful turned around and took a step. She was 1,000 miles away. Old Monster Chu's grab missed, but Peaceful slap was coming at him from 1,000 miles away. Bam! Above the pure Sun Island, a huge void vortex appeared, and terrifying energy ripples directly set off thousands of miles of light and shook thousands of stars. Old Monster Chu shouted, "Do you really think there's no one in the 1,000-star city? How dare you set foot on the 1,000-star island in just 3 months?" Peaceful didn't speak. This was the first time Han Fei had asked her to take action. And this time, she didn't help him kill the enemy, nor did she save his life, but to help him create a diversion. On the pure Sun Island, the moment the 2 half-king realm powerhouses attacked, in the Zhang family's treasury, a black shadow suddenly dissipated. When the black shadow dissipated, the entire island shook. The treasury trembled and a voice shouted, "Who is it?" Han Fei's white mist body had already set up an array. At the moment when the 2 became one, Han Fei had already stepped into the formation and disappeared. The remnants of the teleportation array had yet to fade away, and Zhang Tao's residence was instantly reduced to dust. The teleportation array had already been distorted, and then it was annihilated, leaving not a single trace behind. Outside the Zhang clan, near Zhang Tao's residence, Many people knelt on the ground. They were all furious, afraid that Zhang Tao had done something wrong. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Wanjin and Zhang Jihua rushed to the treasure vault. Looking at the empty treasure vault above the 6-story pagoda, they were dumbfounded. Zhang Wanjin was dumbfounded on the spot. An entire floor of treasures was lost under the watch of an advanced venerable. How was that possible? The guard's expression was extremely ugly. He gritted his teeth and said, "There are a total of 11 people who entered the treasury today." It had already been confirmed that he was an outsider named Zhang Tao. This guy escaped too fast. He had already set up a teleportation array. Zhang Jihua took a deep breath. There seems to be a strange phenomenon on the Pure Sun Island. Almost at the same time, our Zhang clan was robbed. I'm afraid these two people have some connection. Zhang Wanjin said, "He's good at arrays and stealth. This person must be at least a venerable to be able to hide from the fallen ancestor. Who in the Thug Academy has the strength to come and go without being noticed? Could it be Immortal Li?" Zhang Jihua shook his head. "No, impossible. Immortal Li is now an undead creature. If he came here, he would definitely leave traces here. Besides, this technique seems quite familiar to me. It looks like Han Fei." Although Zhang Jihua hadn't been on the Scattered Stars Island for a long time, he had heard a lot about Han Fei. Swish! Zhang Yun, the guard of the Zhang family's treasure vault, directly broke the void and stepped out. Han Fei was really annoying. You stole things, but you didn't even let go of the cabinets and booths. Are you going to take them back as decorations? When Zhang Jihua mentioned Han Fei, both Zhang Yun and Zhang Wanjin actually believed him. In the battle on the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei's ability had already been shown. This guy was bold, ambitious, and confident. The only thing he lacked was strength. However, pure strength couldn't measure Han Fei's true ability. This guy had the experience of being a half-king. The Zhang clan was robbed. Han Fei is here. Immediately, the venerable powerhouses of the big families of the Thousand-Star City appeared one after another. No one knew that these people were out, but their scope of investigation was extremely wide. Of course, as early as when Old Monster Chu took action, these people were already vigilant, especially when Old Monster Chu attacked in the direction of the Pure Sun Island, which made their hearts jump. If something happened to the Pure Sun Island, it was related to the Thug Academy. Now that the two sides were like fire and water, only one side could survive. Therefore, most of the venerables still looked at the Pure Sun Island. However, while these venerables were looking at the Pure Sun Island, no one looked at the Ideal Palace. Some people were even looking at the God's Memorial Tower, but no one was looking at the Ideal Palace. Because everyone knew that Han Fei had been to the Ideal Palace and had obtained a big opportunity in the Ideal Palace, so it was meaningless for Han Fei to go there again. However, they didn't know that Han Fei came out with his memories. The opportunities in the Ideal Palace were far from being taken by him. For example, he hadn't obtained the golden page in the mouth of the Azure Dragon in the Sea Soul Realm. Also, did he miss the prehistoric Soul Realm back then? What he wanted was definitely not the reincarnation Soul Realm. He didn't know if he could go there again. In the last Soul Realm, he hadn't walked through it yet. He hadn't walked through the final divine temple of creation yet. At this moment, Han Fei casually turned into a passerby and walked on the white jade bridge of the Ideal Palace. After a few steps, he completely entered the Ideal Palace. Not deliberately avoiding the teleportation array under his feet, Han Fei was directly teleported to an unknown place, waiting for the fog to descend and cover him. This time, Han Fei waited for more than 10 minutes before he slowly fell asleep. Outside the Pure Sun Island. Outside the Pure Sun Island, peaceful and Old Monster Chu retreated. When she sensed that the aura of the venerable token had disappeared, she knew it was time for her to retreat. As a matter of fact, Old Monster Chu and Peaceful had just exchanged 3 moves, causing the sky to change color and the stars to sink. In the end, the opponent ran. This made many venerables who rushed over dumbfounded. "What's going on?" Old Monster Chu said. "The newcomer is a demi-king. Don't underestimate her. If I remember correctly, this person smashed Sun Shao Dian with one slap." The newcomer looked around. What does she want to do? Zhang Yun of the Zhang family gnashed his teeth and said, "She's making a diversion." The appearance of a demi-king attracted the attention of all the strong masters. Han Fei took this opportunity to loot our Zhang family's treasure house and escape calmly. Good. Han Fei, you're forcing us to start a war. Someone rolled his eyes. Who the F*** CK asked the Zhang family to be rich. Besides, the war had already started. When they fought for the king's corpse, there was no room for negotiation between the two sides. However, they didn't expect that only 3 months later, Han Fei had already set his sights on the Thousand-Star City. Someone said, "This kid must go to one of the two places. It's either the Thousand-Star Proving Ground or the God's Memorial Tower. I don't believe that his purpose is just to loot the Zhang family." Old Freak Chu shouted, "Right now, our races are the same breath and branch. Han Fei is not here, and the strong masters are with him. Then it's best if someone can go to the Scattered Stars Island to find out the truth." All of a sudden, the group of supremacies looked at each other. What a joke. If he left the family now, what if his family was robbed? Old Monster Chu said, "The Yi family is the fastest. If the venerable of the Yi family can go, I can take care of the Yi family. A few days should be enough for the investigation." A venerable of the Yi family was stunned. "Damn, you're the fastest." "I'm fast, but what if he's a demi-king? Do you want me to die?" The venerable of the Yi family said, "The Zhang family controls the exquisite treasure tower, so it's very convenient for them to go to the Scattered Stars Island." The venerable of the Zhang family asked, "How can ordinary people get in touch with people at Han Fei's level?" While they were talking, Han Fei had re-entered the ideal palace. This time, Han Fei's goal was very clear. He went straight to the entrance of the third soul realm, the Sea World Soul Realm. Outside the entrance, many people were shouting. They were all a group of people who wanted to buy soul crystals and explore the soul realm together. It was a common thing for Han Fei to enter alone, so no one paid attention to him. Different from the first time he came here, Han Fei now had the power of faith in him. If a large sea creature appeared here again, he wouldn't hesitate to slash again. 2 hours later, Han Fei stood in the extreme depths of the Sea World Soul Realm. When he felt the terrifying aura coming, his body stopped trembling. The power of the indestructible golden body gave Han Fei enough confidence to stay calm in front of this dragon soul. When the huge dragon head appeared slightly, Han Fei said, "Senior, I've searched thousands of mountains and rivers and experienced 81 tribulations. Finally, I found some dragon bones. Senior, please take a look and see if this is your body." As he spoke, Han Fei took out a section of dragon bone nearly 100 meters long. "Oh!" A strange look flashed in the scarlet and cold giant eyes. "This bone is indeed a dragon bone, but it's not my body. Young man, you seem to have become much stronger. Your body seems to be strong enough to bear me." Chapter 1462. When the Azure Dragon Soul Shadow said this to Han Fei wasn't as nervous as before. If he hadn't experienced the battle on the island, Han Fei would still think that the dragon race was not an enemy. However, the reason why he came to this Sea Soul Realm as soon as he entered the Ideal Palace was to see if this Azure Dragon Soul Realm was good or bad. When the Azure Dragon Soul Shadow said this, Han Fei no longer regarded this dragon as a dragon. Instead, Han Fei looked at the Azure Dragon quietly and said lightly, "So, Senior, what do you want?" The Azure Dragon Soul Shadow seemed a little surprised. Isn't Han Fei afraid at all? Does he have something to rely on? Or is he really not afraid of me? The Azure Dragon asked, "Aren't you afraid that I will destroy your soul, take your body, and reincarnate?" Han Fei grinned and said, "If you want, you can have a try. If you don't want to, then it's time to give me the page in your mouth. If the dragon bones I take out now are not yours, then your bones must be in a place where I can't go. And your golden page is the key." Now is not the time to offend this Azure Dragon, since there was a golden page in this guy's mouth, and that page was probably given to him by me. Then this meant that even if this Azure Dragon was not a good person, he had to cooperate with me for some reasons. So he was qualified to take care of the golden page. The Azure Dragon's soul shadow opened its mouth slightly. However, the The golden page didn't appear immediately. He said, "After all, you didn't bring my body here. How can I give it to you?" Han Fei shrugged slightly. "Senior, you must have been waiting here for tens of thousands of years, right? After such a long time, no one has been able to bring your bones back. Senior, do you think you should give me this opportunity? If you don't trust me and have to give me the page, why don't you give me another benefit? Of course, this benefit can't be small." At this time, Han Fei was more and more relaxed. Everyone had their own weaknesses. Since this Azure Dragon Soul Shadow was in charge of the golden page, he might not be able to kill him. Even if it was someone else who met his conditions, he might not necessarily kill him. The reason why he asked Han Fei to look for the skeletons was because Han Fei felt that this might not be the only condition to obtain the golden page. Sure enough, the Azure Dragon pondered for a moment and finally said, "It's not like I can't give you this page. However, you have to promise me something." Han Fei smiled. "Senior, please go ahead." The Tsang Dragon said, "I swear by the great Tao that you will help me get my dragon body back." Han Fei smiled. "No problem. However, what benefits are you prepared to give me?" The huge eyeball of the Azure Dragon stared at Han Fei and said in a deep voice, "I will give you a drop of Azure Dragon Essence blood and a dragon transformation technique. In order to learn the dragon transformation technique, one must have the blood essence of an Azure Dragon. You can only transform into a dragon if your bloodline contains the blood essence of a dragon. Once you transform into a dragon, you will be considered a collateral descendant of my dragon clan. In the future, if you see the Great Era, it will only be beneficial to you." Han Fei touched his chin. "Well, it sounds very attractive. All right, deal." A moment later, when Han Fei finished the oath, the golden page floated towards him. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. Another golden page. Got it. Han Fei was really interested in the golden page. After all, he had seen old Han's fighting style. Was it the Big Dream Heavenly Book? That page was like a move of a grandmaster. There seemed to be no end to the paper, and it looked extremely awesome. He had already collected 4 golden pages in the Ideal Palace. Maybe when the 7 pages were fused, he would also get a super great technique. At this moment, the floating stone tablet appeared, and the gilded characters on it trembled slightly and were about to move. Han Fei's face changed slightly, and a thought flashed through his mind. He immediately used the illusion method of the Ideal Palace to extinguish the light of his name on the void stone tablet. Sure enough, Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that this void stone tablet didn't have to be ranked. The Ideal Palace gave everyone the ability to erase their own names. Unfortunately, there are not many people who could really make the void stone tablet appear. Therefore, no one had ever discovered this secret. Only those who didn't want to be noticed would prevent their names from appearing on the stone tablet, and only then would they discover this secret. Immediately, Han Fei left the Sea Soul realm with a smile. As soon as he came out, he heard the old turtle say, "Oh, that's a dragon's soul. I want to ask, why didn't you just kill him? Your little calabash is not simple. A mere dragon soul can suppress him in the blink of an eye. Why do you have to swear by the great Tao?" Han Fei sneered. "I said to bring the bones, but I didn't say to give them to him. Haha, this is not a violation of the oath. Besides, if it doesn't work, I'll find a way to kill him." Han Fei smiled faintly in his heart. Even the old turtle didn't know that he didn't swear by his great Tao, but by the black killer snail's great Tao of gravity. What does this thing have to do with me? Hearing Han Fei's words, the old turtle thought to himself, this dragon is quite sad. Why did he meet such a person? It turned out that Han Fei never wanted to give the real dragon bones to him. He even wanted to kill him a long time ago, but he didn't know it. Don't you think it's sad? It seems that I have to be stubborn when I swear by the great Tao in the future. Otherwise, who can I complain to if people like Han Fei take advantage of me? The Azure Dragon certainly knew that Han Fei was a person who could change his great Tao at any time. Such a person shouldn't exist in theory at all. In any case, a golden page had been obtained. Without hesitation, Han Fei entered the 4th soul realm, the prehistoric soul realm. He quickly found an empty mountainous area and began to dig holes to look for the visualization fossils. With his previous experience, Han Fei dug a hole and tried going in and out 13 times before he entered the Death Valley that he had been in before. During this period, Han Fei dug up as many as 20 visualization fossils. Among them, 3 were complete visualization fossils, although Han Fei didn't touch any of them. Han Fei wanted to see the scene that Luo Xiaobai, Lurin Quang, and the others experienced. All under the king are ants. No one dares to kill a god in 100,000 years. Mortals can also open the gate of heaven, and my fate is in my own hands. These were all the experiences of Lurin Quang and the others. However, even though he had excavated 13 times, he had never encountered any of these scenes. It wasn't until he re-entered the Death Valley that Han Fei confirmed that everyone had a different experience. His fortuitous encounter was most likely that inexplicable battle back then. Bam! 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 After a while, when the beasts began to gallop, Han Fei began to rush forward. Now, Han Fei, who had learned the Heavenly Void divine walking technique, was even faster than the Thunder Leopard. In the end, when Han Fei saw the divine boat of creation, a giant ape appeared behind him, a colorful tiger roaring, a one-horned rhinoceros sprinting, and a thunder leopard flashing. Huh! Where are the beasts going? The giant ape appeared and roared loudly. Han Fei pondered carefully. This was not a beast king. This monkey was more like Ape 6. However, in the tide of beasts, Han Fei didn't dodge. This time, he didn't intend to turn into a little ape. No matter how strong the little ape was, it was still the power of an explorer. A real venerable, or even a king, could kill him with just a press of finger. Last time, he transformed into a little ape and could only beat the shrimp soldiers and crab generals in the water. This time, Han Fei learned his lesson and ignored all the battles. He rushed all the way, stepped on the boat, and boarded the boat. To Han Fei's surprise, no one stopped him from boarding the boat because Han Fei was a human. As soon as Han Fei came up, he heard a voice in the void. The human race has 2 paths. Some are exploring the sea, and some are fighting to the death. The beasts can't transcend the sea. It's not that I don't want to, but I can't. Go back. Huh! The ape roared angrily, jumped up violently, and jumped directly into the air. At this point, Han Fei knew that Ape 6 was going to die. Obviously, this was history. This event needed to be remembered, but he couldn't change it. Han Fei turned his head and didn't look at those crazy creatures again. On this big boat, there was a sea of people. Above the sky, there were still people fighting with the Sky Clan. However, at this moment, there was no heavenly crystal. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. It turned out that he was lucky that he didn't encounter such an opponent. Han Fei found a place at random and asked the person next to him, "Brother, do you know where we are going?" The man had just come down from the battle formation to rest. Seeing that Han Fei was fine, he immediately said angrily, Dongfeng, Dongfeng, how did you get up here?" Dongfeng? The battle between humans and apes ended very quickly. After all, this was just a miniature of history, not really according to the normal time. Not long after the battle, about 6 to 10 hours later, Han Fei was being arranged to go fishing. However, he heard a voice shaking on the boat. The man was very strong, and his terrifying power overwhelmed the entire big boat. He shouted, "Everyone, the voyage to hope has begun. No one knows how long we will sail and how far we will go. However, according to the prophecy, in the endless sea in the east, there's a lost land hidden. That is the best habitat for us humans." Han Fei's heart did a flip. It turned out that the purpose of appearing in this miniature of time was not to incarnate into an ape, but to see, where would this divine boat of creation go? What would it encounter? This was the complete story, and this was a high-score option. He would never become a member of the Beast Army and attack the big boat. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1463. On the big boat, Han Fei didn't know whether the person just now was a demi-king or a real king. After all, he hadn't seen that person yet. It made sense. In the ideal palace, his strength was so weak. Even if he met a strong master, would they talk to him? On the giant boat, there were 3 floors. In each floor, there were 33 floors for a total of 99 floors. In other words, this supergiant ship was 99 stories high. Some floors were particularly tall. Take the floor where Han Fei was, for example. Han Fei found a spiritual plant garden and even a small demonic beast garden. The first thing that came to Han Fei's mind was the story of Noah's Ark and Sa. However, before Han Fei had time to wander on this supergiant boat, he was immediately conscripted. The giant boat was conscripted to guard the giant boat. This ship was named the Explorer. The tens of thousands of people on the ship were determined to conquer this sea and find a territory that belonged to human beings. Maybe because of the acceleration of time, Han Fei only stayed on this ship for a day, but in the blink of an eye, several years seemed to have passed. In the blink of an eye, it seemed that decades had passed. Another day, Han Fei thought that on the third day, he heard a few explosions, and above the sky, cracks appeared frequently, which was the scene of the fall of the Venerables. In this battle, 7 Venerables died, and a rain of blood poured down. There was also a shocking crack. The sky and the earth changed color, and a mournful voice came from the ninth heaven. Han Fei took a deep breath. Is this the fall of a king? He didn't know if it was because he was trapped in the fog of history, but the old turtle didn't appear and seemed to be blocked. After this battle, Han Fei and countless others saw a strong master holding a big order, covered in blood, floating above the divine boat. The man shouted, "There is the divine land in the east, which is billions of miles wide. There are ancient trees in the sky, whose branches reach the ninth heaven. Even on this sea, there are 98,000 islands. Now, I order the 9 clan Grand Masters to lead the human race across the sea and rebuild the glory of our human race." On the divine boat, someone shouted excitedly, "We found a new land. We can get rid of the sea demons." Someone said with a solemn expression, "Something's wrong. Why did His Excellency have the Grand Monarchs lead us across the blue sea? Can't we just drive the divine boat over?" Someone looked at the sky. Things are definitely not as simple as they seem. If you want to survive in this vast ocean, I'm afraid you'll have to go through layers upon layers of bloodshed. Han Fei was like a spectator, although he really wanted to see the place where the strong were fighting. Over there, the heavens must have collapsed and the earth split. However, Han Fei was too weak at this moment. He could only go with the flow and was led by a venerable toward the east. However, before he could run far, he encountered the army of the Sea Tribe. It was different from the Sea Clan army on the Scattered Stars Island. There were thousands of different kinds of creatures in the army here. It seemed like they were sniping at the human ships. Originally, Han Fei thought that the Venerable would lead some explorers, some law enforcers, and a series of people with lower strength to attack. However, under the pursuit of the Sea Tribe, the Venerable One gave up on some of them and let the remaining Explorer-level powerhouses lead the crowd to break through the encirclement and rush towards the east. This was just a battle to break through, so some strategic sacrifices were needed. The scene kept changing, and Han Fei followed the team for a long, long time. Originally, there were still tens of thousands of people in the team that Han Fei belonged to. However, as the scene changed several times, there were only thousands of people left. In this fog of history, they rushed left and right. And finally, in a battle, someone suddenly shouted, "Look, the land!" As this person shouted, Han Fei turned around and was already standing on the land alone. Why am I the only one who came up? Although Han Fei was used to this kind of abrupt plot changes, he still felt that there should be thousands of people on the island. He couldn't be the only one on the island, could he? Han Fei suddenly remembered that the strong master said before that there were 98,000 islands on the sea. Then, on the land, there would be a huge tree that stretched for billions of miles. However, they didn't see any of them at all. Han Fei was puzzled. I'm on the island? Then, what was the meaning of this fog of history? To lead future generations to the east? Then what was in the east? The Beast Emperor went to the east, and the Beast King also went to the east. Now, the prehistoric giant boat was also sailing to the east. It seemed that all the prehistoric secrets he had encountered were hidden in the infinity of the east. Needless to say, there was definitely a big secret in the east. While Han Fei was wondering if he should look for the real land, the void steel suddenly appeared in front of him. On the stone tablet, Han Fei's name lit up. Han Fei was about to stop his ranking from rising. But then he gave up this behavior. Even if his name appeared on this stone tablet, so what? After leaving the ideal palace, others would have no memory of it. Since they had no memory, whether Han Fei's name appeared or not wouldn't have much effect. Besides, if Han Fei wanted the golden page, his ranking couldn't be low. After all, this prehistoric soul realm was different from the sea soul realm. In the sea soul realm, he knew exactly where the golden page was, but he knew nothing about this prehistoric soul realm. He let his name rise rapidly on the stone tablet. But after a while, Han Fei's name undoubtedly reached the top. Throughout history, Han Fei was the only one who walked the eastward journey of human beings. Although history was too short, it told Han Fei one thing very firmly. In the future, he would go to the east. Clatter. When Han Fei's name reached the top, sure enough, a golden page began to descend and slowly flew into Han Fei's hand. Then, it merged into Han Fei's body. Was this the end of this period of history? When Han Fei took the golden page, it automatically appeared in the first level of the prehistoric soul realm. Outside, everyone was in an uproar. What? Why did Han Fei's ranking change? When did Han Fei come to the Thousand-Star City? It is said that this guy became the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island and has a bad relationship with the big clans. How dare he come here? Damn, this is a tough guy. As soon as he came here, he occupied the top spot. Someone wondered, wait, if Han Fei occupied the top spot in the fourth soul realm, why didn't he occupy the top spot in the third soul realm? For a time, all kinds of news began to spread. The intelligence personnel immediately went to find the children of the big clans, preparing to sell information. Although the information in the soul realm couldn't be transmitted, there were still people willing to buy it. Swish, when a strange figure came out of the prehistoric soul realm, many people were stunned. However, they were only stunned for a moment and soon went to do their own things. They couldn't think that someone came out of the soul realm just because that person was Han Fei. Every day, there were so many people entering and leaving the soul realm. Who could tell them apart? Of course, there were also people who quickly glanced at Han Fei and remembered his appearance. Who cared if he was Han Fei or not? Just write it down and find someone from the big clans to sell it. After all, since the big clans began to pay attention to the Thug Academy, they began to pay attention to everyone who entered the soul realm. Han Fei looked at the stone tablet for a while, but in fact, he was chatting with the old turtle. The old turtle said, I just cut off contact with you. I'm clearly in your body, but we seem to be separated by time and can't communicate at all. Did you travel through time again? Han Fei said, I didn't travel through time. I entered a kind of historical fog, a timeline that is neither in the present nor in the past. The place I'm going to next may be even more mysterious. Han Fei took a deep breath. At this point, he had already obtained the golden pages of the top 5 soul realms. However, he really didn't dare to go to the reincarnation soul realm. If he were to experience what happened back then again, how troublesome would that be? When he passed by the 5th soul realm, that was the war soul realm, Han Fei found that the soul realm here was gone and the void stone tablet had collapsed. Huh, the soul realm disappeared? Han Fei frowned and hurried to the reincarnation soul realm. When he came here, he found that his name was really not on it. But Luo Xiaobai's name was on it, and she ranked 19th. Han Fei stood at the entrance of the soul realm and thought for a long time. Should I enter or not? The old turtle said, although this place is extraordinary, I'm afraid it's impossible for it to stop you now. Han Fei paused for a long time before saying, we don't understand. Fine, let's go in. Han Fei stepped into the entrance of the soul realm. However, in the next second, a magical scene appeared. Han Fei came out of the entrance again. Fortunately, few people came to the 6th and 7th soul realms. Otherwise, someone would have exclaimed. Han Fei was stunned. What did this mean? He had been to the City of You in the Age of Doom once, but now he couldn't go there? However, the one he went to was the real world. The one created by the ideal palace should be fake. He might not be able to enter the real one, but he couldn't enter the fake one either? That was a bit strange. The old turtle said, the rules of the Great Way there can't tolerate you at all. Boy, don't tell me you want to travel through time and return to ancient times. The rules of the Great Way don't allow it. The old turtle said, yes. In some places, certain people and certain forces have left too heavy a mark, heavy enough to change the cause and effect of the Great Way, and the rules of the Great Way will forcibly obliterate that alien. If it can't be obliterated, it won't repel it. This world is not a complete law of the Great Way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have entered and come out, but would have been forcibly killed. Han Fei frowned. So, I can't go to this reincarnation soul realm? What if I can't go to reincarnation? Then what about this golden page? What should he do with it? Since every soul realm had a golden page, this reincarnation soul realm should also have one. However, this reincarnation soul realm didn't allow him to enter at all. Damn it, it was hard to deal with this. Han Fei was shocked. There was still one person who could go in, and that was his sister who he had never seen before. However, if he had to go in such a big circle, he would have become a king long ago. At that time, would he still need this golden page? Han Fei shook his head slightly. If I can't get it, there's nothing I can do. I can only go to the seventh soul realm and have a look at the second chapter. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1464. There were 7 soul realms in the ideal palace, and each level should be more difficult than the last. After experiencing reincarnation, Han Fei felt that there shouldn't be anything more difficult than this soul realm. In fact, when Han Fei really entered the 7th soul realm, he didn't feel that it was very difficult, but he felt that this place was ridiculous. Lightning Prison. As soon as he entered the 7th soul realm, Han Fei was shocked to find that this place was very similar to the Lightning Prison in the Baibei Royal City. However, the Baibei Royal City and the Thousand-Star City were separated by the Wall of Death. Could it be that these two places were connected through the Lightning Prison? Han Fei was stunned for a long time, feeling the bombardment of the lightning. In an instant, dozens of lightning bolts fell. The old turtle was also stunned for a moment. However, both of them soon realized what was going on. Han Fei said, "No, it can't be the Lightning Prison. When I entered the Lightning Prison, I was only at the Tao-seeking state. If it were a normal Tao-seeking state, it would be impossible for me to resist the bombardment of the lightning power. But in this ideal palace, I was only a peak-level hidden fisher. It was very easy for me to resist the lightning. This can only mean that the strength of this lightning is not strong." The old turtle said, "It's not that the lightning is not strong enough, but that your physique is too strong. Although you are now a soul, everything here is shaped according to the current you. So, your physique is still very strong here." Han Fei chuckled. "So what? Do you think this is the same place?" The old turtle said, "Not really. This is not the same place. However, I didn't know how this place came to be." Han Fei raised his eyebrows. You also know how far this place came from?" The old turtle said, "Go forward and see how far you can go." The Lightning Prison, for Han Fei, was equivalent to a training field full of lightning. As long as he had enough time, Han Fei could live here forever. After a long time, his physique would be greatly improved. Having tried the power of the Lightning Prison, Han Fei began to run wildly in this Lightning Prison. Boom, 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 every second, dozens of lightning bolts bombarded Han Fei, causing electric arcs to surge on his body, and blue light appeared in his eyes. However, not only did these bombardments not slow down Han Fei, but they even made him run faster. In a short while, Han Fei had run thousands of kilometers away. When he was in the Thunder Prison, Han Fei's score was 3,000 kilometers. If he charged forward with all his might, he would be able to travel at least 5,000 miles to temper himself. At this moment, Han Fei finally understood why so many people failed in the Thunder Dungeon. It turned out that everything was a problem of physique. In the past, the 5th Glimmer had said, if Yang Nanchi could pass through the 6th level, then the 7th level would be a piece of cake for her. Han Fei didn't quite understand at that time. Now, he understood that this level of the soul realm was actually not that difficult for a body cultivator. After 1,500 kilometers, the voidstone steel began to appear. Han Fei's name directly climbed to the 99th place. When he reached 2,000 kilometers, Han Fei's name soared to the 38th place. In other words, the short distance of 500 li was enough to stop most people. Perhaps there were quite a few people who walked the path of body refinement, but there were extremely few people who could truly succeed in body refinement. In other words, they thought that their physiques were already extremely strong, but they were just frogs in a well. When Han Fei rushed to 3,000 kilometers, he was already ranked third on the list. This meant that in history, it wasn't as if there had never been a true body refining powerhouse. However, such people were very few. It was almost effortless. When Han Fei went 5,000 kilometers deep into the lightning, when part of the lightning had turned red and purple, Han Fei finally felt a slight discomfort in his body. At this time, Han Fei's ranking was already the first. The void stone steel's calculation was absolutely correct. Han Fei stood in the bombardment of lightning, his body floating on the surface of the sea. Wherever he went, there were lightning flashes and thunder all over the sky. At the same time, tens of millions of lightning chains burst out. When Han Fei stopped, he saw a small blue snake winding like a dragon. That was the spirit of the thunder vein, which Han Fei had seen before. However, this spirit of the thunder vein was holding a golden scroll in its mouth and flying towards Han Fei. When Han Fei was about a kilometer away from it, the spirit of the thunder vein loosened its mouth, turned around, and fled into the sea of lightning. Han Fei took the golden page and let the lightning bombard him calmly. He was a little distressed. These pages should be gone here, but what about the last golden page? Han Fei thought for a long time and closed his eyes to meditate. If the demon purification pot could give this golden page a message, he would at least know what it was. However, under Han Fei's perception, he only felt that the golden page in his body was rotating and closing together. As he stretched out his hand, the golden page appeared, but nothing appeared on the surface of the page. The old turtle said, "You're missing one?" Han Fei tried to create a golden page with the creation ability of the ideal palace. In the void, a bright light flashed, and the next second, it was shattered by the lightning. Han Fei was not in a hurry to go out, nor did he answer the old turtle's question. Instead, he asked, "Old Yuan, you said you know where this place came from?" The old turtle said, "Yes, most of the places with lightning you've seen come from the same source, except for a few places because of the terrain and mineral deposits." Oh, Han Fei was curious. In this life, he had only seen such places of lightning in the Baibei royal city and here. Once, in the Age of Doom, when he and Shimin Linglan wandered outside, they found a sea of lightning in the outer sea. Ordinary people dared not approach it. Even though Shimin Linglan had become an explorer at that time, she still rushed out of that sea as if she were running away. The old turtle said, "This is actually not a big deal. Although I don't know what the Age of Doom is like, I can guess that the Great Path is missing. However, this emperor can guess that the Great Tao is missing and the various techniques are impassable. The collapse of every great path means the loss of a heavenly path. The collapse of every great path means the loss of a heavenly path. If this heavenly path collapses, this path will be dark. The power that wants to supplement the heavenly path will form a sea of lightning. In the corner where the great path is missing, it bombards every day." Wait a minute. Are you saying that the Thunder Prison and the Thunder Soul Realm are both caused by the lack of great paths? The old turtle reminded him, "It's the lack of heavenly paths, not the great paths." Han Fei didn't care which great path was missing. He asked, "I'm just asking, what are the benefits?" The old turtle said, "There are benefits, but there are none. In fact, I wanted to say this in the Baibei royal city. The spirit of the thunder vein may be a benefit. Furthermore, it was possible that living beings could be born within the lightning. But that's in reality. Obviously, it's not possible here. If we can catch those creatures, they'll be extraordinary." Han Fei blinked. "What else?" The old turtle said, "The birth of these places of lightning is mostly related to some special wars. Therefore, in the depths of these places of lightning, there may be the corpses of experts left behind. However, it won't be easy to get them. Han Fei's eyes lit up. Are there any here? Han Fei didn't think it was the death of a venerable creature that could cause a land of thunder and lightning even after death, right? Could it be a king? Or even stronger? The old turtle said, no matter what the benefits are, there are none here. This place was just an illusion. It was fake. So, it's impossible for what I said to exist. The one in the Baibei Royal City, if you have a chance in the future, you can try it. Han Fei thought to himself, the old turtle must be hiding something. If it were so simple, the old turtle would have told him in the Baibei Royal City. There was no need to wait until now. He was definitely hiding something from her, and it involved some secrets. Han Fei said, Old Yuan, according to what you said, there are actually a lot of such places of lightning. That means that many great paths have collapsed. What exactly caused the great paths to collapse? The old turtle snorted. Don't play tricks. There are some things that you can't be involved in now. You don't need to get to the bottom of everything. Aren't you going to the Divine Palace? Why are you wasting time here? Han Fei curled his lips and smiled. I'm just taking an opportunity. Out of the 7 soul realm, Han Fei's ranking once again rose to the top. However, no one was watching outside the 7 soul realm. After all, ordinary people wouldn't come here at all. They couldn't go in, and there were no benefits. They couldn't even watch the show. Who would be willing to come? At this time, Han Fei stood at the entrance of the cave. With a thought, a golden page appeared in front of him. This was a hallucination he had created. Of course, Han Fei knew that it was fake. However, so what if it was fake? As long as he could make this book complete temporarily, even if the content was wrong, he could still find a way to restore it. As it turned out, the golden page that Han Fei imagined collapsed before any information appeared when it was melted into the other 6 pages. After trying many times in a row, Han Fei was puzzled. It shouldn't be. If I can't put it together into a real book, can I put it together into a fake one? The old turtle said, Is there any place you haven't been to? Han Fei was startled. Right, the Divine Temple of Creation. The 3rd chapter, The Pit Left in 1,000 Star City, was also a transition. It was soon over into this chapter. Chapter 1465. Speaking of which, even after Han Fei had left for a long time, no one had noticed that the void steel outside had changed. The 7 soul realms were arranged in a bow shape, and the creation temple was at the arrowhead position of the bow. Without anyone providing him with any information, Han Fei soon found a strangely shaped dragon boat hall. It could be said that this creation temple was the most special place in the ideal palace. It was said that this place had never been used. No matter who came here, nothing strange happened. Therefore, except for some busybodies who wanted to find out what was going on, not many people took it seriously. If Han Fei hadn't left last time, he would definitely have come to this creation temple to take a look. When he first saw this so-called creation temple, Han Fei was speechless. The shape of this ship was more like a dragon boat than that of the dragon boat in the level 3 fishery. Among them, the whole hull was more than 300 meters long, and from the bow to the stern, it was in the shape of a dragon body. The middle part of the hull rolled inward in an arc. When Han Fei came here, he saw that there were still some people groping around outside the hull. It seemed that in their opinion, such a maverick temple would always have some miracles. Countless people couldn't find the secret. Maybe the secret was hidden in an unknown corner. At the entrance of this hall, directly below the dragon head, there was a magnificent gate engraved with pictures of the sun, moon, and stars. In this pattern, Han Fei saw the solar era stone, and his eyelids twitched. In the star bead of the Thug Academy, he had seen this kind of solar era stone outside Xiao Xi's coffin. If this kind of solar era stone only played the role of recording time and calendars, would be inlaid on the gate? In this era of cultivation, who would still care about calendars? Obviously, there was something else here. The solar era stone was just a way to record the calculation of time and calendars. How useful could it be? Was it really just a decoration here? Han Fei was very suspicious. This kind of solar era stone seemed to have its own unique significance. No matter what it played, he had to pay more attention to it. After a few more glances, Han Fei was about to walk into the creation temple like an ordinary person. However, maybe because Han Fei's appearance was too strange, a group of people shouted at him, "Brother, do you want a copy of the Divine Palace of Creation's secret deduction map? This is the accumulation of the wisdom of countless generations and millions of years. All that's left is to find the treasures of the Divine Temple of Creation." "Wait a moment, brother. I have the Creation Temple's trial and error hunter treasure pouch." There were many conjectures about the Divine Temple of Creation. These are all methods that have been thought of by our predecessors. All kinds of wonderful ideas will definitely give you a burst of inspiration, brother. Someone said, "Brother, I have a puzzle of the underground palace. Do you want one?" Han Fei was lost for words. "Wait, why would I buy the leftovers?" The man hurriedly shook his head. "Hey, you can't say it like that." Behind every wonderful idea, it represented a person's painstaking research. It was someone who had spent a lot of effort to figure it out. Even if it's wrong, we might be able to find some inspiration from some details. Han Fei glanced at the half-foot-thick book in the man's hand and rolled his eyes. Not interested. However, although Han Fei refused, he had already stopped and said a few words to her. This made these people think that Han Fei was a greenhorn who had never been to the Divine Temple of Creation. As the saying went, pluck the feathers of a goose. Since you were targeted by these people, they wouldn't let you go if you didn't give them some money. Suddenly, someone grabbed Han Fei's arm. Someone even hugged Han Fei's thigh. Someone shouted, "Hey, you stole my wonderful idea. How can I let you go? If you don't give me 10 mid-quality soul crystals, I won't let you go." Someone shouted, "How can you do this? You've read the information and you still don't want to pay? How can there be such a free lunch in this world?" Around the Divine Temple of Creation, many people seem to have gotten used to these people's tricks. Anyway, they felt that since they couldn't die in the Divine Temple of Creation and could change their faces at will, they might as well shamelessly ask for money. As the saying went, shameless people are invincible. Although these people's tricks were very vulgar. However, every time they made a move, they could always get some money. If they were lucky, they could even get a lot of money. Of course, they didn't dare to do that when they encountered the children of the big clans. However, looking at Han Fei's clothes, he didn't look like he was from an aristocratic family. Han Fei was speechless. F***CK, aren't they just a bunch of scoundrels? They're forcing me to buy and sell. Swish. Before this group of people gathered around to extort money. With a flash of a knife, Han Fei slashed down and 3 people were chopped into pieces. F***CK. As soon as Han Fei made a move, many people cast surprised looks at him. In the ideal palace, this kind of intelligence gathering was all in gangs. Everyone was united for the purpose of getting money. These people were not rich. They were all people who couldn't find a way to make money. Therefore, when such a group of people united, it was both pitiful and hateful. As soon as Han Fei made a move, hundreds of people immediately surrounded him from all directions. Those people were also looking for targets and preparing to fool people. However, when they saw their brothers being chopped, they had to come and help no matter what. Otherwise, there would be no one to help him in the future when he needed help. Someone shouted, well done. You didn't pay for the things you bought and even attacked us? What do you think the ideal palace is?" Someone sneered, "If you're caught by us, there are many ways to annihilate your soul. Do you know that?" Someone shouted in a low voice, "Boy, if you don't take out 50 mid-quality soul crystals today, don't even think about leaving." Looking at this group of people talking, Han Fei shook his head slightly. There's a saying that a poor man's ambition is not stifled. But for a few soul crystals, you're shameless. Such behavior not only can't help you improve your realm, but it will also make it more difficult for you to find your own path in the future. The road is long, and you've done all the thankless things. Han Fei's words made some people a little confused. What kind of logic is this? Someone realized that something was wrong. So many people surrounded him. But Han Fei didn't panic at all. In the face of everyone's threats, this person dared to treat them with contempt? He must not be an ordinary person. Some people were already old foxes. They snorted coldly. Bullsh**T. The road is under my feet. As long as my heart doesn't change, the road will not change. Don't talk nonsense here. Brothers, beat him out. Swish, the void shook and knife light flashed. More than a dozen people in front of Han Fei were cut into pieces in an instant. All of them collapsed and flew out of the ideal palace. From beginning to end, no one saw how Han Fei did it. It wasn't because Han Fei had become stronger after entering the ideal palace, because he had now reached the semi-venerable realm. In fact, Han Fei's current strength was only that of a peak-level hidden fisher, the same as when he was in the ideal palace. However, Han Fei's vision was different now, and so was his understanding of combat. In fact, any strong master would have a similar feeling. The ideal palace was not connected to the outside world, so Han Fei didn't need to hide anything and stepped straight into the divine temple of creation. Even after Han Fei entered, Han Fei's voice was still floating here. If anyone makes trouble again, I'll kill your souls. Frightened by Han Fei's words, these people immediately panicked. Judging from Han Fei's means of killing dozens of people casually, this person was definitely a top strong master. If such a strong master said he could slaughter souls, they really didn't dare to doubt it. Fortunately, in the divine temple of creation, it was a completely different world. Outside, everyone could explore and try to find the secrets of the divine temple of creation. However, anyone with a brain wouldn't believe that the secret would be outside. After all, for thousands of years, the divine temple of creation had only been this big. Every inch of the building outside had probably been rummaged through. If there really was a secret, it would have been taken away long ago. Han Fei entered the main hall of the ship. As far as he could see, there were just ordinary gold, stone, and jade beads. Although these jewels were also shiny and looked shiny, they weren't dazzling enough for Han Fei. In the center of the divine temple of creation were 8 golden-laid jade pillars, which led straight to the dome. Above the dome, Han Fei saw 5 carved golden rings engraved on them. On the golden rings, there were 5 strange symbols. Among them, the 4th golden ring was the symbol on the solar calendar stone. The 2nd golden ring seemed to be related to the 5 elements. The 3rd golden ring was a bit like the lines of an array, but he didn't know it. It could be said that except for the solar calendar stone, Han Fei didn't know any of the others. Wait. When he saw this dome, Han Fei realized that something was wrong, because this kind of pattern decoration was actually quite similar to the symbols on Xiaoxi's coffin. However, there weren't so many symbols and characters on Xiaoxi's coffin. This divine temple of creation should be like this after everyone came in. Han Fei lowered his head and looked at his feet, only to see that it was more like an unfolded sphere, engraved with ancient mountains and rivers. Hiss! Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Something seemed to be wrong. The jade brick under his feet was engraved with a regional map, and there were 2 places that he was very familiar with, the 100,000 Mountains and the City of Justice. Yes, Han Fei would never mistake it. These floor tiles were laid one by one. The entire ground was a pattern composed of tens of thousands of small floor tiles. Not only were there a lot of floor tiles, but they were also messy, as if they needed to be pieced together. However, these palm-sized bricks were not connected seamlessly. Instead, they were blocky and hard to figure out, just like Picasso's transformation. Because of this, ordinary people didn't realize that they needed to be pieced together at all. They just thought they were mysterious. Although these floor tiles were quite exquisite, they were not the original drawings after all. Therefore, Han Fei felt very awkward at first glance. Sure enough, this is something left for me. Chapter 1466. In this era, no one was more familiar with the City of Justice and the 100,000 Mountains than him. After the Age of Doom, the 100,000 Mountains were separated, and the City of Justice was overturned by the tide. The mountains, rivers, and earth all changed. How could anyone remember the sea map from 100,000 years ago? Therefore, when Han Fei saw these maps, he knew why no one could put together the correct pattern from these countless small pieces. There were no less than tens of thousands of small pieces of the map here. If they were put together randomly, who knew how many spellings there would be? Moreover, these small floor tiles were not removed from a complete map. A brick was a brick. Any 2 small bricks placed next to each other would actually be quite harmonious. After all, each piece was a geography. God knows what's next to this brick. What's next to that brick? Huh. So that's how it is. It turns out that I've really put in a lot of effort. Han Fei flew up and lay in the air, parallel to the ground. Han Fei knew the map of the City of Justice and the 100,000 Mountains very well. When he practiced the heavenly void divine walking technique, which mountain didn't he fly over? It could be said that which mountain peak had which trees? What were the characteristics of those trees? He knew them very well, not to mention the City of Justice. Back then, he asked the aristocratic families for the position of the city Lord Deshiman Linglan and replanned the city so that the patrol team could be stationed. That map was drawn by him. How many towns were there around it? What were the names of the towns? What were the characteristics of the towns around them? He knew it all too well. At this moment, with a thought from Han Fei, tens of thousands of stone bricks flew up. At the same time, at least hundreds of stone bricks were moving. A moment later, a map with mountains, rivers, and landforms appeared. The difficulty of putting together these regional maps was the huge villages, sea maps, and mountains. Where should they be placed? However, at this time, Han Fei noticed a problem. Where did the reincarnation soul realm reincarnate? If those aristocratic families had also gone to the City of Justice and the 100,000 Mountain Range, then as long as they returned from reincarnation, they should be able to remember some of the geographical patterns. After all, in that era, regional maps would not be hidden. No one would have thought that in the future, there would be people who would use maps as tests. Han Fei thought, maybe it's because other people's memories are a bit blurred after reincarnation. Otherwise, the reincarnation cycle of others and his own reincarnation cycle were two different reincarnations. Of course, some people who went to samsara would also record down the things that happen inside and sell them. There were plenty of such informants. However, no one would pay special attention to this kind of news. After all, everyone who entered the cycle of reincarnation wanted to obtain something, not to remember what was inside. The story inside was at best just a story. Whoosh, 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 when the last piece of stone was put together and all the stones were laid on the ground again. There was a buzzing sound as the stones all burst out with a greenish-yellow light. These rays of light kept hitting the dome. Han Fei looked up, only to see that on the dome, the 5 rings engraved with runes seemed to be alive, peeling off from the dome. When all the 5 rings were peeled off, above Han Fei's head, from the outside to the inside, 5 large golden rings of different thicknesses and widths appeared. On these rings, there were 5 different kinds of characters. Han Fei didn't care about it. He just took it and asked someone later. At this moment, the 5 rings, one wrapped around the other, were floating above the void. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that in Forge the Universe, the black bead that he accidentally obtained from the Zhang family's treasury was running around. Han Fei immediately released the black bead. This was not the first time that Han Fei had seen this situation. Some things would attract each other. As soon as the black bead appeared, it flew to the center of the 5 rings with a whoosh and floated in the middle. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, he saw that the smallest ring among the 5 rings began to rotate quickly with the black bead as the center. Crack, crack, crack. Immediately afterward, the second ring also began to rotate with the black bead as the center. Smack! Han Fei slapped his thigh and exclaimed, "Armillary sphere." Han Fei's eyes narrowed slightly. It was slightly different from the armillary sphere. Seeing this thing, Han Fei was at least sure of one thing. This thing was definitely an instrument for measuring the spherical coordinates of celestial bodies, or an instrument used to demonstrate astronomical phenomena. Han Fei's heart was pounding violently. In ancient times, this was one of the most primitive navigational instruments. Those rings actually represented various rings, such as equatorial rings, ecliptic rings, meridian rings, etc. Generally, they were used to measure longitude coordinates, ground coordinates, and so on. However, as far as Han Fei knew, this kind of navigation instrument didn't have a ball in the middle. Besides, there were no messy coordinates on this navigation instrument, only messy symbols and characters. Crack, 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 when this thing completely turned into a navigation instrument, Han Fei saw that at the intersection of its rings, there was a curved arrow-shaped symbol which should represent the direction. The rings were rotating slightly, and as the arrow-shaped symbol returned to its position, the rotation suddenly stopped. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Name, Nautical Panorama, Introduction, a special magic weapon forged from natural spiritual treasures. It has the magical ability to measure phenomena and uncover the mysteries of all things. The Oceanic Panorama will calculate the way and determine the direction according to your thoughts. This is a holy artifact in the world, comparable to a divine artifact, and can't be easily shown to others. It can only be used 3 times a day. If it is used more than 3 times, it will bring bad luck. Quality, human holy artifact, can grow, spirit attached, none, effect, point to the place you want to go, recastable, unrefined. Note, the all creations represent luck, but also crisis. Gulp. Han Fei swallowed. Oh my god, this is King awesome. He had obtained a human saint artifact out of the blue. Moreover, this thing could grow. The Wanxiang, he would point to wherever his heart was directed to. It's a bit similar to the mysterious golden curse compass. However, this is a King human holy artifact, probably the most awesome treasure in Han Fei's hands now. The old turtle also exclaimed, "What a wonderful workmanship! I didn't expect that you could crack this rare treasure in the world in one try." Han Fei said warily, "Humph, old Yuan, there are some things you shouldn't see. If you see it, I will erase it for you in the future." The old turtle's voice sank. "Do you think I want to see it? At the very least, I can still tell you. Otherwise, if this empress were to watch silently, what could you do?" Han Fei sneered. "Don't be so arrogant. You should talk to me nicely now. By the way, do you know what this thing is?" The old turtle pondered for a long time and said, "Based on my rich experience, this seems to be a nautical instrument. In our time, this thing was actually not rare. However, it was generally not spherical." Han Fei smiled. "Is it fan-shaped?" The old turtle said in surprise. "How do you know?" "It's nonsense." Han Fei's heart did a flip. It seems that no matter how mysterious the world is, it still needs some scientific and technological elements. If his guess was right, the fan shape that the old turtle knew was an octant or a sextant. Of course, there was a world of difference between it and a normal octant or sextant. At most, it looked a little similar. For example, could this panorama move according to his mind? It was something that could not be explained by any subject. The old turtle said again, "The text on the first ring should be the language of the myriad tribes, which is the common language of the myriad tribes. I haven't seen anyone on your side use it." Han Fei was taken aback. "Do you know the other characters?" The old turtle said, "The second one is more like a mark of the laws of heaven and earth, which coincides with the 5 elements. I don't know what the specific characters are. The third ring is a spatial line, which is a spatial pattern. I don't know the other 2. Han Fei was slightly surprised. In this way, there were actually 4 kinds of characters. The language of the myriad tribes in the first ring. The inscription of the 5 elements in the second ring. The spatial line of the third ring. The solar calendar stone in the 4th ring. Only the 5th one was left, but he didn't know what it was. At this moment, Han Fei looked at this huge panorama, immediately reached out, and dropped a drop of essence blood on it. Han Fei felt that a large amount of essence blood was being sucked out of his body. With the strength of a semi-venerable and the power of a golden body, 80% of his essence blood was sucked out at once. This almost scared Han Fei out of his wits. In an instant, he stuffed all kinds of spiritual fruits into his mouth and began to crazily replenish his blood. Fortunately, this panorama didn't seem to be bloodthirsty. Or rather, it wasn't a weapon. Therefore, it didn't need a lot of essence blood to recognize its owner as a weapon. If he wasn't careful, he would be sucked to death. After about half an hour, when a palm-sized panorama appeared in Han Fei's hand, Han Fei grinned and asked, "Where should I go now?" Crack, 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 the panorama quickly rotated twice. Then the arrow pointed in the direction of the door, meaning to go out. Han Fei had thought that there would be other secrets in this divine temple of creation. For example, were there any treasures that hadn't been discovered? However, this panorama asked him to go. It seemed that there were no other treasures here except for it. Han Fei immediately shrugged. A human holy artifact, a treasure comparable to a divine artifact, he had to believe it. When Han Fei walked out of this divine temple of creation, he found that a lot of people had gathered outside. It seemed that the people who had been beaten away by him just now were coming to pick a fight with him. The leader was a green-haired, brawny man who was looking at him fiercely. "It's him, Master Green. It's this kid." Han Fei was in a good mood at this moment. Looking at this person, he smiled and said, "Why? Do you want to take revenge on me?" The brawny man sneered. "I heard that someone killed my brother with a knife. Let me take a look and see who it is." Han Fei gently patted his waist, and the blood-drinking knife appeared out of thin air, looking at the green-haired brawny man with a faint smile. Hiss! As a result, the moment the blood-imbibing knife appeared, many intelligence personnel gasped in astonishment. Han Fei, it's Han Fei, and around them, many people who were ready to watch the show howled and ran away when they heard it was Han Fei. This figure was now very famous in the Thousand-Star City. He was an existence that could challenge a venerable. Swoosh, the group of people began to flee wildly. Han Fei looked at Master Green and the group of intelligence agents and said coldly, "Whoever dares to take a step will be killed without mercy. If you want to die, try to move." Chapter 1467. Han Fei's void lines had already been released, and these people had already felt the threat of death. This was a real crisis of death. Besides, Han Fei had been rumored to be able to kill souls outside the ideal palace soul realm. How could these knowledgeable intelligence dealers not know this? Therefore, under Han Fei's threat, none of them dared to run. Han Fei said, "I only have 2 questions. As long as you answer these 2 questions, I can spare your lives." The green-haired brawny man and the group of intelligence dealers all bowed. "My lord, please ask. I will definitely tell you everything I know." Han Fei said, "First of all, tell me, where is the 5th soul realm?" These people were taken aback and looked at Han Fei in astonishment. Where's the 5th soul realm? Shouldn't you be asking yourself this question instead? Seeing these people's strange expressions, Han Fei immediately kicked the green-haired brawny man. "You tell me." The green-haired brawny man said aggrievedly, "My lord, this 5th soul realm was destroyed by your Thug Academy, right? Back then, your Thug Academy fought with the heavenly talents of the big clans and directly destroyed the 5th soul realm. After coming out, Luo Xiaobai went on a rampage and slaughtered countless people. Only you didn't come out." Han Fei was stunned. So at that time, the 5th soul realm had already disappeared. It was normal that he didn't come out. He was sent to the reincarnation cycle by Shimen Linglan, so of course he couldn't come out. However, he didn't expect that this directly led to the collapse of the 5th soul realm. Han Fei pondered for a moment and immediately said, "Let me ask you again, in the 6th soul realm, which world did you go to?" The green-haired brawny man said, "My lord, the 6th soul realm should be in the Age of Doom." "What is the specific time period?" "It varies from person to person. It seems to be random in those 20,000 years." Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "What do you mean?" An intelligence dealer said, "My lord, some people went to City of You, some went to the City of Justice, and some went to Blackrock City. According to the different information we collected from different people, many people went to different places and experienced different things." Someone added, "My lord, after entering the reincarnation cycle, many things will be forgotten. Even if part of it was remembered, it was difficult to remember everything. It's like a dream. You've experienced the dream, but you can't remember everything." When Han Fei heard that, he felt that something was wrong again. The dream was incomplete. Every great family had a soul-type artifact. If someone went to U City, then they should know the map of the creation shrine and know how to piece it together. As long as they went to the divine temple of creation first and saw the secret inside, they should know that as long as they went to reincarnation and found the map, they could completely piece together the floor of the divine temple of creation. Wait, suddenly, Han Fei seemed to understand. Han Fei's eyes lit up, and he immediately said, "Let me ask you, have there been any heavenly talents who have entered the cycle of reincarnation more than once?" Many of the intelligence dealers nodded in agreement. Someone said, "Someone has been there hundreds of times." Han Fei immediately understood. "I see. It wasn't that they didn't know the secret of the divine temple of creation, but after they entered samsara, some information in their minds was indeed blocked by the great Tao there. Even if they had a soul-type artifact, they couldn't remember everything. It was like how he couldn't remember the floating stone. Every time this word was on the tip of his tongue, he just couldn't remember it or say it. This was the time paradox caused by the later generations, bringing the memories of the later generations into the long river of time." Humph! Han Fei grinned. "It seems that I'm lucky to have met a super strong master like the time dragon carp who can swim in time." Han Fei thought, "There's an explanation for the fifth soul realm. I can't enter the sixth soul realm. The secret of the divine temple of creation has been solved by me. In this ideal palace, I'm only missing a golden page." Han Fei shouted in a low voice, "Get out of here, all of you. Don't think too highly of yourself in the future. Want to become stronger? Then go to the vast sea and wander by yourself. Stay here? It's useless." "Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for your advice, Master Han Fei. I'll take my leave." For a moment, these people felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders, and they fled in terror. Han Fei was the only one left. In a few steps, he stepped into a small forest. He stretched out his hand, and the oceanic manifestation apparatus appeared in his hand. Han Fei asked, "Tell me, how do I get the last golden page?" Crack, 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 the oceanic manifestation apparatus began to spin rapidly. However, after only 7 or 8 revolutions, the pointer aimed at him. Yes, Han Fei didn't see it wrong. The oceanic manifestation apparatus was pointing at him. This meant that he didn't have to leave the reincarnation soul realm to collect the missing golden page. If this was the case, Han Fei understood that his previous idea was correct. In any case, it was a fact that the golden page was missing one. It was also a fact that he couldn't put it together. The only way he could use was to fabricate a golden page out of thin air. However, the actual effect proved that the original power of the ideal palace alone was not enough to create a golden page. Then he had to use his own power of the Great Path. The Jasper Stone Bridge had the magical ability to walk toward the future. As long as he could walk toward his other self, wouldn't the secret of this golden page be completely unraveled? Han Fei didn't know if he could activate the Tao seed in this ideal palace. However, after trying for a while, it didn't work. Han Fei smiled bitterly. It seemed that it was unrealistic to create that golden page in the ideal palace. Or maybe it was because his physical body was not here, so he couldn't completely touch his own great path. It didn't matter. Anyway, he had already obtained the 6 golden pages. In the future, he would have plenty of time to study how to find the last golden page. At this point, Han Fei was no longer interested in the ideal palace. Swish, in the ideal palace. The news that he had come and should have spread. After all, Han Fei's name was on the void steel again, so it was hard not to attract attention. However, Han Fei didn't panic. After going out, these people would no longer have memories of him. He wasn't afraid that they would spread the news of his arrival. What he was afraid of was that too many people going out would attract the attention of the outside world. Although the people inside couldn't spread the news to the outside world, this didn't prevent the people outside from speculating about what was inside. Therefore, when many people were leaving the ideal palace, Han Fei took the opportunity to leave. Outside the ideal palace, someone was confused. Why did I come out? Someone was puzzled. I feel strange. I plan to stay in there for a year, but only half a month has passed. Someone was also puzzled. I feel something is wrong. Many children of the big clans have come out. Fortunately, Han Fei didn't stay in the ideal palace for long enough. At most, he was gone for less than 2 hours. Therefore, at this moment, outside the ideal palace, there were only more people, but not too many. Han Fei sneered in his heart, quietly stretched out the void lines, and directly controlled a young man not far away from him. The young man waved to Han Fei and said, "Brother Wang, What a coincidence. You also came out? Han Fei responded enthusiastically. Hey, isn't this brother Zhao? Are you going in or coming out this time? Hey, I just came out too. I'm going to the Sky Meditation Garden and the God's Memorial Tower for a few days. Han Fei nodded. Oh, really? Let's go together. I've been in there for 3 months, but my strength hasn't improved at all. It's really worrying. Han Fei acted like two good friends who hadn't seen each other for many years. The person controlled by Han Fei was also confused. He thought to himself, F***CK. What the hell am I doing? Han Fei unhurriedly controlled the fishing boat with the person controlled and flew in the direction of the God's Memorial Tower. Since robbing the Zhang family, his identity should have been almost exposed. These venerables had many tricks up their sleeves. How could they not even think of this? Even if it was Han Fei himself, he could guess who it was after a little elimination. First of all, it couldn't be someone from the Thousand Star City. Otherwise, if they could steal it, they would have done it long ago. If it wasn't someone from the Thousand Star City, it must be someone from the Thug Academy. In recent years, there have been a lot of big events, and they were all caused by these people. And excluding everyone, now there was only one person who was growing so fast that everyone felt that he was eager to become a king. That was Han Fei. Besides, it wasn't the first time that Han Fei wanted to rob the Zhang family. The difference was that last time he brought the thug sect patriarch. This time he came by himself. At this moment, the venerables of the Thousand Star City only looked in two places. One was the Thousand Star Proving Ground, because it was very likely to be the passage to the Divine Palace. The Chumen's eyes were mainly focused there. As for the others, their eyes were basically on the God's Memorial Tower, occasionally glancing at the Pure Sun Island. However, to be honest, no one believed that Han Fei would go there, because it was meaningless to go to the Pure Sun Island. At this moment, Han Fei secretly pinched his fingers and his heart sank. Sure enough, after falling out with them, it was not easy for him to come to the Thousand Star City for a secret realm. However, the arrow was already on the bowstring and had to be shot. He was only one step away. Han Fei even felt that it wasn't a coincidence that he got this Wanxiang instrument. Was this Wanxiang instrument designed to help him find the way to the central holy city? Therefore, as long as he entered the God's Memorial Tower, Han Fei was confident that he could go straight to the Divine Palace. Half an hour later, Han Fei and the person being controlled were chatting about the open pattern of the Scattered Stars Island while talking nonsense, saying that this God's Memorial Tower was the most difficult of the 3 holy lands. Should I go somewhere else first? Although he didn't know who he was pretending to be, he had to pretend first. However, as soon as the two of them flew to the God's Memorial Tower, they were stopped by the patrol team. Like the Sky Meditation Garden and the Ideal Palace, there were also many people going in and out of the God's Memorial Tower. However, almost all the people here had been investigated. Since Han Fei entered the Ideal Palace, the God's Memorial Tower had been under martial law. The patrol team said, "Come on, report your name. We'll verify it." Han Fei controlled the person next to him and said angrily, "Wait, don't you know me? Eternal Life Island, Zhao family, Zhao Sankong. I'm so handsome. Don't you know me?" Han Fei also roared, "That's right. We've been to this God's Memorial Tower dozens of times. I, Wang Dalu, am a frequent visitor." At this time, if Han Fei wanted to control others with the void lines, it would be easy for him to be discovered. While they were making a fuss here, a few kilometers away, at the entrance of the Ideal Palace, a figure quietly left. However, at the moment he left, the aura on his body fluctuated. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, the void trembled, and a strong master went straight to the Ideal Palace. At the moment when the void trembled, Han Fei grabbed a person on the island with the void lines and suddenly got up. The moment the person got up, he was directly pressed down by a very terrifying force. At this time, a cloud of black mist suddenly rose, and the power of the old turtle venerable burst out. In the void, a voice shouted in a low voice, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." Just when the old turtle controlled the person below to attack, a voice shouted from the void, "This place is forbidden." At the moment when this shout came out, a black shadow stepped thousands of kilometers away and came to the entrance of the God's Memorial Tower. The old turtle's black mist phantom had been squeezed to pieces at this moment. With a thought in Han Fei's mind, the twins merged into one and turned into a figure. Standing at the entrance of the God's Memorial Tower, he glanced at the sky. "Old thief, wait for me to come back." Chapter 1468. Han Fei was very confident that he could sneak into the God's Memorial Tower. Han Fei also had the power of a half-king, so he knew what the perception ability of that level was like. In fact, neither Zhao Sankong, who had been controlled just now, nor Wang Delu, who was bragging his name, was Han Fei's real body. In fact, Han Fei was hiding in the fishing boat as a black mist. At the same time, Han Fei left the white mist in the ideal palace. In this way, even if the black mist was exposed, the white mist would have time to escape. Han Fei had never been to the God's Memorial Tower before. This time, Han Fei felt that he was qualified enough. As long as he passed this God's Memorial Tower, he could reach the Immortal Palace. As long as he inherited the source water in the Immortal Palace, he could even become a venerable without the help of half a drop of source water. When he became a venerable, with a large amount of spiritual energy, demonic energy, and energy fruits in his body, he could quickly reach the level of a peak-level junior venerable. These plans quickly ran through Han Fei's mind. When Han Fei left the Scattered Stars Island, he knew that this time he would definitely go back with the strength of a peak-level junior venerable. Han Fei's body flickered, and he appeared in the God's Memorial Tower. Perception really doesn't work. Huh? My strength is suppressed to the level of a law enforcer. Interesting. This is in my favor. As long as the big clans are not stupid, they shouldn't send people to kill me. In front of Han Fei was a huge platform square, about 1 kilometer in length and width. 1 kilometer away, there were stones floating in the air as a road, which people could walk on. From a distance, Han Fei saw some irregular patterns. These patterns, this was a weird shape like the Penrose stairs. Those floating stones, layer by layer, turned into this weird staircase in his naked eye. A kind of staircase that would never end, a kind of staircase that could be repeated countless times. And in Han Fei's eyes, except for this staircase, there was no other strange shape. When Han Fei saw the spiral staircase that shouldn't exist in the three-dimensional space, although he was a little surprised, he didn't panic at all. Previously, Han Fei planned to spend a lot of time to pass the God's Memorial Tower. But now, with the navigator, Han Fei knew that it would be a piece of cake to pass the God's Memorial Tower. His limit was that he could only use the myriad manifestations apparatus 3 times a day. Perhaps he would have to stay in the God's Memorial Tower for a few more days. On the huge square in front of him, Han Fei saw many old men sitting cross-legged on the edge of the stairs. The fish skin in their hands was flipping from time to time. These people seemed to want to exhaust their intelligence to figure out the problem with this unreasonable body. Han Fei immediately shook his head. This wasn't something from this dimension at all. Just like how explorers could enter the void, how could ordinary people enter? Not to mention entering, they couldn't even see through it. Ever since he learned the heavenly illusionary divine movement art, Han Fei could be half real and half illusionary, but this was still not the 4-dimensional space. The rotating stairs in front of him, on the other hand, were a kind of 4-dimensional space, enough to subvert a group of ordinary cultivators. If they couldn't see through this, they wouldn't be able to figure it out, even if they spent a lifetime studying it. Fortunately, Han Fei's eyes were sharp enough to recognize it at once. The old men who were concentrating on their research didn't notice Han Fei's arrival at all. After all, people came to the God's Memorial Tower every day, and they didn't want to be distracted by a newcomer. Of course, a few people who were idle were looking at Han Fei with glowing eyes. Needless to say, these people were definitely intelligence dealers who specialized in buying and selling intelligence. As it happened, Han Fei wanted to buy some intelligence too. So, Han Fei waved at those people. Swish! Then, he saw the few of them rushing over and fighting with each other. When they came to Han Fei, someone even pushed the person next to him aside and said telepathically, "I came here first. Don't steal my business." The person responded, If there's business, let's do it together. It depends on who the customer wants to buy intelligence from. Someone said, "Brother, is this the first time you've come to the God's Memorial Tower? I only charge 100 high-quality pearls for the explanation of the basic rules. It's a free gift. The key is the route to the God's Memorial Tower. We have a total of 12,038 copies here. They can definitely meet your needs." Cough, cough. Han Fei slightly staggered. F***CK. More than 10,000 routes? Wait a minute. What the hell? Han Fei thought that it wouldn't take long for him to find the way to the God's Memorial Tower with the myriad manifestations apparatus. But it seemed that this tower wasn't easy to walk. If he really wanted to walk the same path as them, he would probably have to walk for a few months. Han Fei's eyelids slightly shivered. Okay, enough with the fancy stuff. Let me ask you first, why are there only the three of you here? The three of them looked at each other, and one of them said with a smile, "It's fine to tell you. Only those with the most intelligence resources can stand on the first floor to receive customers." One of them clicked his tongue and said, "Brother, to tell you the truth, I've been in the three holy lands since I was a child. No one knows the three holy lands better than us in the Thousand-Star City." Han Fei was slightly stunned. Wang Santai was stunned for a moment. "You can even recognize him?" Someone next to him sneered. "Bullsh *T. You're the only one who talks about bullying the young. You're only in your 60s, and you've only been in the three holy lands for 50 years at most. I'm different. I'm Lu Yi, 212 years old today, and I've been in the three holy lands for more than 200 years. Who doesn't know this? Who doesn't know?" On the side, a wretched middle-aged man said, "Brother, don't listen to them. How capable can Wang Santai and Lu Yi be? You can ask around. I'm Chun Guzi, 231 years old today. When I was 30 years old, I stopped working in the Sky Meditation Garden and the Ideal Palace. I've been staying in this God's Memorial Tower for 200 years. Han Fei's lips twitched. "You've been here for 200 years? How about it? Have you found the way?" Chun Guzi said, "I haven't found the way, but I've walked 63,468 roads. The longest path I took was a passageway that didn't carry any weights 68 times." Han Fei was stunned. Just now, there were more than 10,000 roads. Now a guy who has walked more than 60,000 roads popped up? Are you kidding me? Han Fei hurriedly said, "No. Tell me the rules of the God's Memorial Tower first. Each person has 100 high-quality pearls. We don't need that money." Han Fei waved his hand, and 300 high-quality pearls were placed in front of the three of them. Han Fei had no time to listen to the bragging of these three guys. What he needed to know was the basic rules. Instead of figuring it out by himself, he might as well listen to them explain it to him. Wang Santai immediately smiled obsequiously. "Brother, you're so generous. From your actions, I can tell that you're definitely not a simple person. This time, you'll definitely make it." Han Fei interrupted. "Get to the point." Wang Santai was slightly taken aback. Why does he sound like a person? But it doesn't matter. Rich people are all bosses. 100 high-quality pearls just to talk about the rules? Who wouldn't want to do such a good thing? Wang Santai said, "Here's the thing. First of all, you can't attack each other in the God's Memorial Tower. Anyone who attacks will bring bad luck, and you can't destroy the floating stones. Someone once tried to destroy the floating stones, but guess what? He strayed into a dead end and never came out again." Han Fei said angrily, "Get to the point." "Forget it. Lu Yi, right? Tell me." Han Fei had to give up on Wang Santai. "Why do you talk like you're chatting? Look at me. Do I look like someone who likes to chat?" Wang Santai was stunned, and Lu Yi was slightly delighted. "Huh, guessed. That's it. The reason why the God's Memorial Tower was the most difficult of the three sacred grounds was because every step on the levitating stone represented a possibility. The number of levitating stones in a scene represented the number of possibilities. For example, on the first floor, there were a total of 32 floating stones connected from end to end, which represented 32 possibilities. Every time you step on a floating stone, a channel will appear. This channel can lead to the next floor. And on the next floor, a new floating pattern will appear. Han Fei was slightly stunned and immediately asked, "How many floors are there in total?" Chunguzi hurriedly interrupted. Brother, no one knows this better than me. Many people would jump to another path halfway through the journey, and those paths may just be a branch of another path. In other words, the paths are interconnected. If someone has to walk down a path completely and go to the deepest floor, hey, I can tell you clearly that the person who went the deepest reached the 98th floor. Hiss! Han Fei immediately gasped. Damn, are you kidding me? This number was not a joke. The reason why he said so was that before the 98th floor, that person had already been to all the other 98 floors of the paths, and he was sure that they did not overlap. How many King billions of possibilities were there? 10 billion, 100 billion, a trillion? But Chunguzi said, Brother, to tell you the truth, in this God's Memorial Tower, every floor forward is an earth-shattering event. Have you seen those old pedants? They have exhausted all methods and gathered human wisdom. Their research results are all in my data. This data only requires 10,000 caddies of spiritual spring. Do you think it's cheap? Chunguzi was talking nicely at first, but when it came to money, his eyes lit up, which made Han Fei's head spin. Immediately, Han Fei ignored him and looked at Wang Santai and Lu Yizhi. Is there anything you don't want to promote? Tell me something that makes sense. Don't tell me the method of advancing floor by floor. Don't tell me anymore. I'm dizzy. Chunguzi's face stiffened. What's going on? I'm telling the truth. I have a compendium of advancing every floor here. Why don't you bargain with me? Chunguzi immediately said, Brother, we can consider 5,000 caddies. The two of them really don't have as much information as I do. Lu Yizhi squeezed Chunguzi and said, Brother, I have some news. Hee, but let's talk in private. Wang Santai looked at it and immediately became anxious. Brother, I have a guess. Chunguzi nodded. Brother, I know a lot more. The price is cheap and the most fair. When Han Fei heard Wang Santai said he had a guess, he thought to himself, this kid is really good at guessing. After all, every time I cooperate with him, I more or less gain something. However, I can't go to him now. I have to leave him for a while. Let's listen to what Lu Yizhi has to say first. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1469. Han Fei had thought that the difficulty of the problem might lie in the special shape of those unconventional collection patterns. The Penrose stairs, Han Fei felt, couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Otherwise, anyone would be able to experience a higher dimensional world at this moment. This be Starred kept telling himself. This is a King map-pushing game. One levitating stone after another was pushed forward. Damn it, how long do I have to push this off? Even if someone spent thousands of years studying, he might not be able to deduce all the possibilities, right? Besides, Chunguzi just said that halfway through, he might make a mistake and push it to another road. When the two roads are connected, you can't say that it's wrong. You still have to push it forward. Han Fei felt that this stupid method couldn't be tested one by one, right? Damn it, haven't they learned mathematics? Han Fei suddenly wondered why the ideal palace existed. There were many possible purposes. However, the most fundamental purpose was probably to let someone obtain this navigational multitude, right? And in this world, only two people could obtain this navigational multitude. One was himself, and the other was his sister, because only the two of them could enter the real reincarnation. By chance, he happened to be one step ahead, so this navigational multitude could only be his. Only he could go to the central holy city. However, Han Fei was a little confused. It was impossible to deduce such a complicated God's Memorial Tower. Even if a deity were to come, they would also get lost if they traveled this way. Then, how did old Han, the thug patriarch, and Rin Tianfen get to the Immortal Palace? Did they go there through star beads? The danger of going there through star beads was countless times higher than going to the God's Memorial Tower. Besides, if star beads could go there, then they wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. They could just sneak into the Immortal Palace to cultivate. After all, the big clans could guard for a day or two, but could they guard for 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years? At this moment, Han Fei stepped on the soundproof array and raised his chin. Tell me, what news do you have? Seeing the speed at which Han Fei set up the array, Lu Yi was shocked. So fast. This person's strength must have reached at least the peak level of a law enforcer. This kind of guy who was going to transcend tribulation was very rich. Lu Yi immediately chuckled. This, brother. My information, do I have to pay a deposit or something? Han Fei smiled and waved his hand, and 10 caddies of spirit awakening fluid appeared in his hand. A caddy of spirit awakening fluid is worth 3,500 high-quality pearls on the Scattered Stars Island. Let's see how you answer. Hiss. Lu Yizhong's saliva almost dropped down. He immediately said, I'll talk. Brother, let's talk about it. Can you? Han Fei casually threw half a kilogram of spirit awakening fluid over. Han Fei said, I don't care what method other people use to challenge the God's Memorial Tower. I only want to hear the kind of information that no one else knows, but is very valuable in the hands of intelligence dealers like you. The rest of the spirit awakening fluid is all yours. This scene made the eyelids of Wang, Santai, and Chunguzi, who were watching from outside the soundproof array, jump wildly. Is this person really so arrogant? Make a deal with spirit awakening fluid? Slurp. Knowing that he had met a big customer this time, Lu Yizhong hurriedly smiled obsequiously. I know, brother, you definitely won't be interested in this kind of unsophisticated method. I won't talk about this anymore. I'll tell you about the strange happenings in the God's Memorial Tower. Lu Yizhong said, I've never told this news to anyone. The God's Memorial Tower is guarded. Oh, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, how do you know that someone is guarding it? Lu Yizhong said, that was more than 200 years ago, because there was a venerable realm powerhouse who was going to destroy this place. I don't know what method he used to bring his full strength in. In the end, what do you know? He only came in for less than 10 minutes, and then the heavens cried and he died. Huh, that doesn't mean there is a strong master guarding it, does it? Lu Yizhong's eyes glanced at the spirit awakening fluid. Han Fei didn't care this time, and threw another 2 caddies of spirit awakening fluid over. This guy continued. It is said that before the venerable died, he left 2 words. Someone. Han Fei. What words? Lu Yizhong replied, someone. Han Fei sweated. Is there a sequel to this story? Lu Yizhong shook his head. No. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Not even a sequel? What are you trying to tell me out of the blue? Han Fei had already guessed that if there was really someone, it must be the controller of the Immortal Palace. He would just listen to a story. Anyway, he had only been out for a few days, and there was still a long way to go before the 1-year promise. Lu Yizhong said, I have another piece of news. I saw it with my own eyes. It was at least 10 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. Han Fei sneered. Say whatever you want. I'll decide how much it's worth. If you don't tell me, I'll find someone else. Lu Yizhong was stunned. He had never seen such a shameless man. He was so arrogant that he didn't even care about him. However, the spirit awakening fluid in his hands couldn't fly away. Lu Yizhong smiled obsequiously. Well, brother, I saw it with my own eyes. Speaking of which, one morning 7 years ago, I saw a white skeleton on the 15th floor of a certain path. With a swoosh, it disappeared. My road is top secret. So far, my news is already worth 10 caddies of spirit awakening fluid, right? Han Fei paused for a moment and said after a while, do you have a sequel to your story? Lu Yizhong was surprised. Huh, isn't this enough? This means that I have encountered a weird event. Maybe I'm on the right road. Han Fei curled his lips. Brother, forget it. I'll give you 1 caddy. You've tried your best to make up a story. I understand. Han Fei patted Lu Yizhong on the shoulder, removed the soundproof array, and then looked at Wang Santai. Come here. I heard that you have a guess. Lu Yizhong was stunned, looking at the 2 caddies of spirit awakening fluid floating in front of him, and then sighed. Indeed, every time I said this, others thought it was fake. But how could any of them know that they had really seen it? Han Fei was thinking, 7 years ago, it should be the Thug Patriarch. Why did the Thug Patriarch know the route? Without the nautical panorama, how could he find the way to the God's Memorial Tower? Even the old monster of the Chu family didn't know, but he did. How did the Thug Patriarch get to the Divine Palace? Did he also go up from the God's Memorial Tower? But no. Han Fei had always felt that the way the Thug Patriarch and the others entered the Divine Palace should be through the star beads in their hands. This was also the reason why these star beads couldn't be given to the 7 major sects and the big clans. Of course, this was also the reason why the big clans have been coveting and suppressing the Thug Academy. If the Thug Patriarch entered the Divine Palace from the God's Memorial Tower, what was the use of a nautical panorama? Han Fei didn't think the Thug Patriarch could get lost in billions of possibilities. Thinking of this, Han Fei frowned. The identity of the Thug Patriarch was not simple, but he had never investigated the origin of the Thug Academy. He would have to ask him about this in the future. Leaving Chun Guzi aside, Wang Santai got into Han Fei's soundproof array. Wang Santai said, "Brother, I have a guess." "Well, should we?" Han Fei finally understood the characteristics of these people. In the past, he had only met Wang Santai who was like this, but today he met 3 of them at once. Han Fei said grumpily, "Tell me the truth first, and then give me the money. As long as it makes sense, I'll get the money." Wang Santai said, "Brother, as soon as I saw you, I felt close to you. From your question, I know that you're different from ordinary people. Get to the point." Wang Santai's eyelids twitched. "Brother Han, this is not the first time we've done business. You can choose not to trust anyone, but can you not trust us?" Han Fei's eyes flickered. "Oh, interesting. Are you sure it's me?" Wang Santai's heart skipped a beat. "Oh, Mom, is it really you? I was just testing you." Although many people had told him to get to the point, only Han Fei's style was different. He looked as if he was going to beat someone up in the next second. Han Fei was not in a hurry, but said lightly, "It doesn't matter if you recognize me. As long as your intelligence is valuable enough, you will get enough compensation." Wang Santai immediately took a breath and said, "There must be a trick to this God's Memorial Tower. In the God's Memorial Tower, when there are many mysterious and weird patterns, it means that each floor here is a checkpoint, and there is no key to each floor." Han Fei's eyes lit up. "Continue." Wang Santai said, "I suspect that the secret to passing the God's Memorial Tower is either in the Sky Meditation Garden's Forbidden Soul Space or in the Ideal Palace." Han Fei couldn't help asking, "Why do you think so?" Wang Santai explained, "The checkpoints in the God's Memorial Tower are like the endless tower in the Sky Meditation Garden. As for the Ideal Palace, we can't remember what's inside, but it's similar. As long as we return to the Ideal Palace, it should be clear. Have you been to the Forbidden Soul Space?" Han Fei smiled. "That's a reasonable guess. However, I can't remember the situation in the Ideal Palace either. Doesn't it mean that I can't pass the God's Memorial Tower?" As he spoke, Han Fei turned the ring on his finger. In fact, when Han Fei left the Ideal Palace just now, he didn't feel that his memory was sealed. Was it the effect of the ring of time on his finger? Or was it because he refined the nautical globe? Anyway, he remembered it. In fact, this was reasonable. The existence of the Ideal Palace was always to explain something. If there's really no one, could he take out the memory inside? Then wouldn't he have forgotten about the navigational multitude instrument? Han Fei said, "Okay, that's more like it. Here's the spirit awakening fluid." With that said, Han Fei casually flipped his hand and took out 10 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid, which made Chun Guzi and Lu Yizi's eyes widen. However, Wang Santai secretly took 10 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid and then said, "Well, Brother Han, actually this is not what I want to say." Han Fei asked, "Huh?" Wang Santai suddenly said, "Brother Han, can you strengthen the soundproof array?" Seeing that Wang Santai suddenly became serious, Han Fei immediately said, "There is a forbidden array here." Han Fei said, "Go ahead. At this moment, no one will hear what you say." Wang Santai's eyes were fiery. "Brother Han, just give me half a kilogram of spirit awakening fluid later. When you start to act, I have to run away." Han Fei said, "Go ahead." Wang Santai said, "First, the God's Memorial Tower is not absolutely safe. Someone can break in by force. You must hide your trace and never expose yourself." Han Fei was shocked. "Are you kidding me? The God's Memorial Tower is not absolutely safe?" Han Fei said calmly, "Go on." Wang Santai said, "Help me. If I tell you this, I have to run away. Can you help me go to the Scattered Stars Island? Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. You can go to the Scattered Stars Island by yourself. At that time, you can say that I asked you to go there. Someone will believe you. Second, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1470. Han Fei threw half a kilogram of spirit awakening fluid to Wang Santai, but Wang Santai pretended to be frustrated, as if he didn't get Han Fei's approval. Seeing that Chinguzi still wanted to rush towards him, Han Fei shouted, "All right, I don't need your information anymore. Disperse." After that, Han Fei went straight to the floating stone and said to the old turtle, "Old Yuan, what do you think? Do you think this place is safe?" The old turtle said, "Just now, when that man said it was not safe, he did not seem to be lying." This empress swept through a few times just now and indeed felt that something was amiss. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. "Oh," the old tortoise said, "first of all, there are the old men who are doing research. Although their forms, auras, and communication methods are all different, they are all different from each other. However, this empress sensed the same aura from their bodies. I'm afraid that these people have been tampered with." Calmly looking at the floating stone in front of him, Han Fei continued to ask, "Anything else wrong?" The old turtle said, "If that kid hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have cared. The floating stones here seem to have been left with some kind of aura, which is extremely weak." Han Fei's eyes turned cold. Tracking, the old turtle said, "I don't think so. This place was sealed by an expert. Even if a half-step monarch could tamper with this place, it was just like the rules of this place. The further one went, the more possibilities there were. No one could leave a mark on every layer of levitating stone. Otherwise, wouldn't the skeleton from a few years ago have long been exposed?" Hearing this explanation, Han Fei was slightly relieved. That was the correct explanation. If the God Memorial Tower had already been monitored, how could it have waited for him to arrive? It had probably been broken a long time ago. What Han Fei needed to confirm now was, how many floors would the mark be on? "Old Yuan, can you help me remember how many layers of that person's mark is spread? I really don't believe that someone could lay down hundreds of millions of seals just to trick people." For Han Fei now, he had to find the limit of the old schemer's mark first. Once he found his limit, he could casually walk down 7 or 8 floors. Regardless of whether it was correct or not, the old man would definitely not be able to find him. At that time, as long as he could temporarily avoid his sight and enter a deeper level, he wouldn't have to worry about being found by old Monster Chew. The old turtle said, "Actually, you can purify this power yourself. Don't forget, you have the apocalyptic divine art, which is especially good at dealing with these miscellaneous imprint remnants." Han Fei asked in surprise, "Can it be suppressed?" The old tortoise sneered. "It would be strange if you couldn't restrain yourself when you're covered in holy radiance. However, if you make a move now, I'm afraid that the other party will make the first move and gain the upper hand." Han Fei sneered. "I'm not that stupid. Come, let's try it out first." In Forge the Universe, the Myriad Manifestations instrument was running. Han Fei thought, "Tell me the direction." Crack, 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 the panorama rotated a few times, and the arrow was aimed in the direction of the floating stairs. As soon as Han Fei stepped onto the floating stone steps, he felt that the space around him was twisted, and he seemed to be able to crawl into this space. This should be what Wang Santai and the others were talking about. Every step was a path. Behind each step, there were countless paths. Han Fei didn't go into the void cave. There were 32 steps on this floor of the Penrose stairs. Han Fei took a step and paused for about 2 minutes. When he walked to the 12th step, in Forge the Universe, the Myriad Manifestations instrument stopped spinning and pointed at him. Han Fei chuckled in his heart. Others have countless choices, but he only has one choice on each floor. According to Chinguzi, the most powerful person could only reach the 98th floor. That meant that it would take him at most 33 days to surpass that person. Besides, the path he was taking was absolutely the right one. Han Fei only planned to use the Myriad Manifestations instrument 3 times a day. As for the side effect, he didn't want to experience it even once. However, he had already used the myriad manifestations instrument twice today. Plus this time, it happened to be the third time. However, Han Fei didn't stop his pace. Although the myriad manifestations instrument couldn't be used, Han Fei could enter a deeper level and use it to confuse the one who left the mark. Han Fei climbed 12 steps and didn't enter the void cave until he reached the 21st step. The old tortoise said immediately, "Here, a mark has also been left." Han Fei glanced at it. On this floor, there were only 12 blocks, typical Penrose triangle. Han Fei walked on this triangular floating stone. As it turned out, this geometric triangle was infinite and the road was endless. No matter how many times he walked, he would eventually return to the starting point. However, except for the 24 useless surfaces, each of the other surfaces would produce a space cave. In other words, there were 54 choices on the second floor. Excluding the choice he made when he came here, it meant that there were a total of 53 choices on this second floor. Han Fei returned to the first floor, chose another space cave, and crawled in. The result was the same. They were all triangles. Han Fei felt that his blood was freezing. This meant that every levitating stone on the first floor had 53 possible paths that were exactly the same for the user to choose from. If someone reached the third floor, they would probably be scratching their head. Damn it, is this something a human should do? Han Fei explored frantically. On the third floor, the old tortoise said, "There is a mark." On the fourth floor, the old tortoise said, "There is a mark." On the fifth floor, the old tortoise said, "There is a mark." In fact, when Han Fei jumped up and down in the cave randomly, it was not until he reached the sixth floor that the old tortoise said, "There is no mark here." He tried dozens of times in a row, even on the sixth floor, but didn't find any mark. Han Fei let out a long sigh of relief. However, then Han Fei's face became extremely ugly. Damn it, if I'm not mistaken, this damn God's Memorial Tower has been marked more than 600 million times. Han Fei had to admire this man's perseverance. How could he do such a thing? Did he bury so many marks just to ambush people? If he didn't pay attention and found the right way, but didn't find these marks, he would be tracked on each floor until he passed. Outside the God's Memorial Tower, in the void shadow, someone shook his head slightly. Han Fei was walking randomly, without any pattern. However, he wouldn't let go, because Han Fei had walked out of the sixth floor several times and even walked to the eighth floor once. Unfortunately, those should just be Han Fei's probing, not the real route. This person was also slightly surprised. Did Han Fei not know what to do? Did the people of the Thug Academy really not know what to do? On the first day, Han Fei almost spent all his time walking and exploring. On the second day, Han Fei explored as far as the 12th floor. Fortunately, the mark under Han Fei's feet didn't disappear, otherwise the person in the void would have taken action. On the third day, Han Fei still wandered in the first 10 floors and finally returned to the first floor. On the fourth day, Han Fei cultivated on the first floor and activated the Yin-Yang Divine Eyes. After passing through various void caves nearly 10,000 times, he still returned to the first floor. By the fifth day, the person hidden in the void was almost losing confidence, thinking that Han Fei might not be able to find the way to the depths. But as a result, just at the end of the day, when Han Fei was on the fifth floor, he suddenly broke out. A terrifying and dazzling pillar of holy light enveloped the whole area. At that moment, Han Fei's figure rushed into a void cave and disappeared. In an instant, outside the God's Memorial Tower, in the void, a strong figure instantly descended. With a tough stance, he tried to take down Han Fei. He followed Han Fei and directly broke into the sixth floor. Not slow at all. The seventh floor, the eighth floor, the mark on the fifth floor was purified by Han Fei, and Han Fei rushed all the way to the eighth floor. Crack! All of a sudden, a big hand instantly grabbed Han Fei. An old voice said, "Humph, Han Fei, you little brat. I told you, since you've fallen out with me, don't think about coming to my 1,000-star city in the future. Do you think that you'll be able to bluff your way out of this old man's hands with your little cleverness?" Han Fei, who was caught, didn't panic at all. Instead, he chuckled. "Old Monster Chew, it's really you." Unfortunately, Today, you're wrong. BM, Han Fei's body collapsed in an instant and disappeared without a trace in an instant. This made Old Monster Chu's heart skip a beat. This person turned out to be a fake, and the real Han Fei was now standing on the correct 8th floor. Huff! When the Gemini became one, Han Fei took a deep breath. Fortunately, although they were in different spaces, the space did not affect the use of the Gemini divine technique. At this moment, Han Fei stretched out his hand, and the nautical panorama appeared in his hand. He stood still, and after more than 10 minutes, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Next floor. Han Fei had already calculated the time. He entered the 11th floor, stepped into a space cave on the 12th floor, and sat cross-legged. Han Fei thought to himself, if Old Monster Chu still has the ability to find me, then I'll be doomed. In fact, from the 5th floor to the 12th floor, although there were only 7 floors between them, there were billions of choices. Even if the gods were alive, if they walked this god's memorial tower according to the rules, they would probably cry. The old turtle said, "Don't worry. If I don't know the route, even I will get lost, let alone a mere half-king." Han Fei smiled gently. I have to say that the big families are really difficult to deal with. If it weren't for Wang Sanni's reminder, I would have almost fallen into their trap. In the future, the Chu sect will definitely be destroyed. The 3rd chapter. Give me a monthly ticket. Mwah. End of this chapter. Chapter 1471. On the 12th floor, Han Fei waited for a whole day. When Han Fei returned to the 11th floor, he didn't find the mark of a strong master. So, Han Fei quickly pointed out the entrance to the next 3 floors with the Universal Observatory. When Han Fei reached the 14th floor, no matter how strong Old Monster Chu was, it would be impossible for him to explore these hundreds of millions of paths at once. Speaking of which, Han Fei actually helped Old Monster Chu. After all, the first 5 floors that Han Fei walked through were absolutely correct paths. Logically speaking, just the path to the first 5 floors would have saved old eccentric Chu and the others hundreds of millions of choices. 2 months later, Han Fei had walked through the 212th floor in this god's memorial tower. Even so, this path still didn't end. It was conceivable that unless there was violent destruction or a divine artifact like the Universal Observatory, it was impossible for ordinary people to have such terrifying computing power to calculate the correct path. Han Fei couldn't help but complain. So many floors should be enough, right? If he went on like this, even if he had the Universal Observatory, he would almost collapse. Were these things in front of me? Penrose stairs, Penrose triangle, Mobius ring, Klein bottle. Perhaps these patterns weren't called like this. There were even some patterns that Han Fei couldn't name at all. Was this just a coincidence? Did Han Fei encounter these wonderful patterns by coincidence? On this day, after using the Universal Observatory, Han Fei walked to the 212th floor and stopped. In Han Fei's opinion, this thing didn't let him go. He didn't have the ability to go. Every day after using the Universal Observatory, he would sit down cross-legged, either to cultivate or to think. However, now he was already half a venerable and couldn't improve any further. If it weren't for the half drop of source water in the Divine Palace, which could increase the possibility of his improvement, Han Fei could even become a venerable on the Scattered Stars Island. However, now Han Fei knew that the stronger he was, the more profound his foundation would be. After becoming a venerable, his strength would be completely different. Therefore, even if he had to suppress it, he would have to wait until he got that half drop of source water. At this moment, Han Fei sat down cross-legged and took out a fish skin map in his hand. On the fish skin map, the numbers leading to the next floor of this God's Memorial Tower were recorded. After filling in the 3 numbers, Han Fei couldn't help but scratch his head and laugh at himself. I'm afraid this thing has no pattern at all. There is no connection between these numbers. The old tortoise said, "You are already quite good. You only need to remember these numbers." This further proves that the navigation instrument you obtained is extraordinary. It also means that you have a deep relationship with the so-called Immortal Palace. In fact, the only thing that puzzled Han Fei was that he went to the Zhang family to steal the 7th level of the true spirit fishing art. In the end, he accidentally stole an entire floor's worth of treasure. After stealing a layer of treasures, he inadvertently obtained this black pearl. Perhaps the Zhang family also didn't know what the black pearl was used for. Therefore, he had always put on the shelf. In the end, he had benefited from it. From the beginning to the end, the Zhang clan had no idea what a great opportunity they had missed. Han Fei looked bored and lay on the floating stone. Suddenly, the old turtle said, Han Fei, actually, these patterns are not completely meaningless. I think it's just that you haven't understood these powers yet. Han Fei tilted his head. Do you understand? The old turtle said leisurely, none of these patterns are normal. However, in the void world, nothing is impossible. I didn't think so before. Have you noticed that these patterns are like some kind of array? Han Fei chuckled. Of course. As early as when I was on the first floor, I thought of this possibility. But what's the point of such an array? Is it used to create an infinite loop maze? Even if these patterns are combined with each other, it will only add a few more confusion points to the loop maze. If it is changed into a killing array, it will work. Han Fei talked with a smile. However, as he smiled, his face suddenly stiffened up. A killing array? If a killing array was circular and endless, there would be no loss of power, and the energy would only dissipate and be reused within a specified range. Then, this killing array would be infinite. This. Han Fei got up with a grunt. Assuming that it was feasible to use a killing array, then what he needed to consider now was, if he carved a single array, how could he trap people in it? The old turtle said, What did you think of? Han Fei said, You have a point. These patterns may not be patterns. They may just be an array. It's just that this array has not been activated. Perhaps the entire God's Memorial Tower is a big killing array. Han Fei's eyes lit up. Logically speaking, perhaps this God's Memorial Tower was the only way to the central holy city. However, it might be the only bridge to protect the central holy city. If the God's Memorial Tower was a big array, then this array could definitely be called an earth-shattering one. Since ancient times, this array ranked first among the tens of thousands of arrays. Han Fei was stunned for a long time and then smiled bitterly. Even if this was indeed an array, how could he draw it? How long would it take to draw such a large-scale array? At this moment, Han Fei was a little amazed by the power of the Immortal Palace. If this God's Memorial Tower was really an array, then how strong would he be? Even if tens of millions of array masters set up arrays together according to a certain pattern, who knew how long it would take to set up such a huge array? He thought for a day, but to no avail. The next day, with a thought, the nautical panorama appeared in Han Fei's hand. As Han Fei chanted in his heart, after walking 15 steps along the floating stone, the pointer turned to him. Without hesitation, Han Fei crawled into the space crack that popped out next to him. However, as soon as he entered, the scene in front of him stunned him. In front of him was a road that had no end in sight. One could not see the end of this path, as if it was covered by a thin mist. The road was about 1 kilometer wide, and there seemed to be houses of various colors on both sides. The moment Han Fei appeared on this road, he saw the shallow fog on the road quickly began to dissipate. Han Fei's vision became clearer. In just a moment, the fog dissipated, and Han Fei seemed to see. At the end of his vision, there was a temple standing. Ooh! Han Fei immediately took a breath. Am I here? Han Fei looked back, only to see a tall tower that covered an area of nearly 100 meters and stood almost 1,000 meters high in the sky. On the body of the tower, there were uneven square stones scattered all over the place. Under the tower, there was a dark doorway. Therefore, the God's Memorial Tower had always been a name in the central holy city. Why did the outside world know the name God's Memorial Tower? God knew. Maybe they were used to calling it that. It was the first time that Han Fei had seen such a magnificent scene. There was no such wide road in the entire thousand-star city that led so far. Han Fei was not a fool. He didn't dare to move a step. After all, it was said that in this central holy city, there was a city protection array. The array was so powerful that it could even kill a venerable. Han Fei looked down at the ground. The bluish-white stones were glimmering and seemed to contain a lot of spiritual energy. However, there was no trace of an array. Han Fei was shocked. Is a brick in this central holy city so valuable? Han Fei asked. Old Yuan, can you feel the remnants of an array here? The old turtle immediately said, You may not believe it. I seem to be suppressed by the mysterious power in this city. I can't release my perception at all. Huh? Han Fei immediately gave it a try. In the end, it was just as the old tortoise had said. His own perception could not be released. In that case, was there a formation here or not? What kind of array was there? He couldn't feel it all. Just when Han Fei was about to walk forward to see what was going on, the scene in front of his eyes suddenly changed. First, there was a thunderbolt that struck directly at his body. Han Fei's face changed slightly, but he didn't stop it. If this was just the power of lightning, it wouldn't be a difficult array to walk through. Boom! Boom! After 100 strikes in a row, Han Fei felt a scorching pain. Han Fei found that the power of this lightning was comparable to that of an ordinary minor lightning tribulation. This was much stronger than the lightning in the so-called Thunder Prison. If one had to compare them, they might even be stronger than the lightning prison 5,000 miles away from the White Shell Royal City. Of course, for Han Fei now, this lightning was nothing. However, after the lightning, there was a sea of fire. Han Fei could cross dozens of kilometers with a step. However, in this place, space seemed to be meaningless. He seemed to be trapped in an invisible array. There was no distance, no time, only nothingness. F***CK. Did I run into the 8 trigrams alchemy furnace? The old turtle said, This array appeared too fast. Logically speaking, it was impossible. Even if you can't detect it, I can't be unaware of it. So, I thought I could wrap you up, but there is only one possibility. Han Fei scoffed. What time is it? Why are you still keeping me guessing? The old turtle said, This whole city is a big array. You're already in the array, so there is nowhere to escape. Han Fei gritted his teeth. Although I'm not afraid of fire, such a big array, Han Fei didn't continue. He suddenly remembered one thing. In the heavenly desolation city, the city that lasted on the sea for more than 200 years, if it relied solely on manpower, it would have been destroyed a long time ago. Human beings had strong masters, but the sea clans did have strong masters. At that time, the heavenly desolation city had a city protection array. Even at the last moment, the city protection array was broken with great difficulty. At this time, Han Fei thought of the heavenly desolation city. So, was the central holy city he was in called the Thousand-Star City? Or did it have an independent name? Chapter 1472. Inexplicably, Han Fei was caught in a series of arrays. Because there was no concept of space here, Han Fei couldn't figure out how to break the arrays. Han Fei was even a little surprised. Who set up arrays like this? If you're going to set up an array, it should be a series of tightly linked arrays to lure people into the trap, right? Who the hell set up a killing array at the entrance? Unless this intersection was not used as a passage at all, but only to kill those from the Thousand-Star City. The fire was roaring, but Han Fei didn't feel it at all, because on Han Fei's shoulder, Little Black was swallowing almost all the fire energy. Did they want to burn Han Fei? It didn't seem possible at the moment. It seemed that the fire array was useless. In the next moment, a dense swarm of arrows that resembled a swarm of locusts appeared out of nowhere. They were darting at Han Fei. F***CK me. Is this how you jump between formations? Han Fei quickly put away Little Black, and with a thought, 2 kitchen knives appeared in his hands. Han Fei moved up and down in the waves like a snake. In the array of arrows that were as fast as lightning, he turned into endless shadows. Clang, 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 clang. After almost 100 minutes, Han Fei stepped on the defense array and slashed with Snowmorn in his hand. Sword Chi soared into the sky. The power of this slash was comparable to that of a peak-level junior venerable. After entering the central holy city, Han Fei's power returned. However, his perception seemed to be trapped by an array and couldn't get out for the time being. Han Fei activated the power of Tao and increased his strength to that of a venerable, trying to break the array by force. However, as soon as he slashed out with the sword-drawing technique, he saw a weird, big mirror appear. The sword-drawing technique that Han Fei slashed out was slashed back intact. Shoot! Han Fei was shocked. Is this a spatial array? Han Fei didn't dare to hesitate. He slashed again, causing the void to shake and air waves to surge. Thousands of sword lights melted into the wind and slashed in all directions. Han Fei's expression changed slightly. An array that can change space, similar to the array in the God's Memorial Tower? Old Yuan, can't you release your perception at all? Without perception, I can't find the array base. Han Fei didn't dare to attack again. The more powerful his attack was, the more the enemy would send it back to him with a weird array. It wasn't that the formation was strong. However, his perception was sealed, and he couldn't find where the formation was. Otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed this killing formation to be activated. The old turtle said, "This Emperor's perception has also been suppressed. It seems like this space is suppressed indiscriminately. Is there a problem with your entrance?" While Han Fei and the old turtle were having a heated discussion, a knife shadow with a 1,000-meter-long spiral came at them. Judging from the surging power of the blade, Han Fei knew that it was no less powerful than his sword-drawing technique. Han Fei thought to himself, "I can't be suppressed like this." His forceful methods were unable to break through, but the other party was able to break through? That didn't make sense. Immediately, Han Fei said in his heart, "Space folding." The reason why his sword-drawing technique had been sent back just now was because the principle was the same. It was a bit like the principle of reflection, but it was not. It was like folding a piece of paper in half, so the attack that was blasted out would return to the original point along the fold. And the space in front of Han Fei was like that piece of paper. Thanks to Han Fei's unique Dao, he could create something out of nothing in a small range and change his Dao unlimitedly. Otherwise, Han Fei wouldn't have been able to deal with such a spatial technique. When the knife light slashed back along the space, Han Fei heard someone exclaim, and the voice was very clear. "Who is it?" Han Fei's first reaction was that if there was someone here, it must be the controller of the Immortal Palace. Han Fei immediately shouted, "We're on the same side. Don't fight." Xiaozi asked me to come here. I've met the Palace Master. How about we cancel this array first? Humph. Han Fei was wondering how to let this person know who he was and confirm his identity. How to tell him that he had no malicious intent. Han Fei was also wondering if he should take out the sea quelling painting. However, swish, 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 the grand void formation gradually calmed down. The black color turned into a faint white. Immediately afterward, it began to become transparent and then disappeared. Is it really that easy? While Han Fei was still wondering, he saw a figure standing 100 meters away from him outside the disappearing array. 3 seconds later, when the void array completely dissipated, smack. Damn it, Han Fei slapped his thigh angrily and cursed. Great. It's fun, isn't it? I'm still a semi-venerable. The power of the array just now is enough to kill a venerable. How dare you attack me? Hey, no, old run. You have to explain it to me this time. What the hell is going on? Why are you in the central holy city? Isn't this where the controller of the Immortal Palace stays? Han Fei complained. However, as he complained, Han Fei found that something was wrong. When Han Fei saw Run Tianfei's faint smile, he swallowed and asked in shock, "Are you the controller of the Immortal Palace?" Han Fei's face immediately turned awful. No one had ever investigated Run Tianfei's background. Because Xiao Ci was ambushed, it could be said that the entire Thousand-Star City didn't necessarily know that there was a controller in the central holy city. Except for families like the Chu sect and the Chao family, other families didn't necessarily know the existence of the Immortal Palace. Even if there were people who knew about the so-called controller's identity, there were probably only a handful of people. Before, Han Fei thought that Run Tianfei was a top expert in the Thousand-Star City. In the end, for some reason, he had conflicts with the big clans in the Thousand-Star City. Later, he was hunted by the big clans and hid in the sea area of the Heavenly Water Village in the Blue Sea Town to recover from his wounds. Later, this genius created his own body refining technique, reached the peak again, and returned to the Thousand-Star City for revenge. Han Fei had thought that the story should be so simple. But later, the reason why Ren Tianfei was hunted was because he had been to the Immortal Palace. At that time, Han Fei even thought that Ren Tianfei was a heavenly talent. Only a real heavenly talent could stand out from hundreds of millions of people and go to the place that everyone wanted to go but couldn't. But now that he thought about it, it was hilarious, too hilarious. A venerable level expert was beaten to death. He went to a small mantis shrimp cave in the Heavenly Water Village and ate a few mantis shrimps, and he thought he could save his life? How stupid could he be? How could he believe such absurd words? In fact, when Ren Tianfei and Old Han joined hands, Han Fei had already guessed it. However, he didn't think about it, because he would rather be fooled. Now, Ren Tianfei had become the controller of the Immortal Palace. What else could he say? The entire Thousand-Star City probably thought that Ren Tianfei and Old Han allied because the big clans in the Thousand-Star City were powerful. That was why they allied and helped each other. However, his mother was the master of the Immortal Palace. How could Old Han and Ren Tianfei not know each other? If Old Han and Ren Tianfei knew each other a long time ago, then the indestructible body was actually their scheme from the beginning to the end. From Ren Tianfei to Old Han, they were all King liars. Hey, wait. Han Fei was thinking, why did I include the Thug Academy in this? Han Fei raised his eyelids, looked at Ren Tianfei, and gnashed his teeth. Who is the Thug Patriarch? If the controller was Ren Tianfei, then it was only natural that Ren Tianfei could go to the Immortal Palace. This God's Memorial Tower shouldn't be difficult for him either. However, why could the Thug Patriarch also go to the God's Memorial Tower? Ren Tianfei, Old Han, and the Thug Academy were all on the same path now. Now, Ren Tianfei's identity was basically revealed. Then, what about the Thug Academy? The Thug Patriarch once dominated the Thousand-Star City, and Old Bai often bragged about it to them. Now that he thought about it, it didn't seem right. The Thug Patriarch was hunted by the big clans because he had been to the Immortal Palace. The reason was the same as Ren Tianfei's. What if he believed it? Then there must be something wrong with his IQ. The corners of Ren Tianfei's mouth curled up slightly. Are you curious? Do you think everyone has lied to you? Han Fei curled his lips. Why? Am I wrong? Since you all have such powerful backgrounds, why don't you just open the way for me and let me go directly to the Immortal Palace? Didn't you open the way for me? Ren Tianfei sneered. Who opened the way for you? From the beginning of your cultivation, from the fishing trial, to entering the Thug Academy, to the Level 3 fishery, to the Scattered Stars Island. During this period, who opened the way for you? With his hands behind his back, Ren Tianfei walked on this broad road. Even if it was for the sea-quelling painting, did I help you get it? It's only in the Thousand-Star City that will save you. Your father and I helped you, but that's because the power was beyond your ability. Otherwise, who do you think would have helped you? Han Fei gritted his teeth. It made sense. When Xia Shaochan was taken away by Chun Huangyan, none of these stars helped. Even when he was killed by Chun Huangyan on the spot, old Jiang couldn't find him after searching for days and nights. But these stars still didn't help. Immediately, Han Fei's heart trembled a little. Just because of the road to becoming a king, he thought that after he took over the Scattered Stars Island and presided over the first battle, he would become a chess player from then on. But now it seemed that this was not the case at all. Ren Tianfei said, "Don't think about that. From now on, my identity has been revealed. The rest of the road is up to you. Don't you want to know who Immortal Li is? Come on, let me tell you." Chapter 1473. It was the first time that Han Fei and Ren Tianfei had met. It could be said that he had never seen a real person before. It was either a clone or a puppet. This should be the real body without a doubt. If Ren Tianfei was the controller, then his strength couldn't be weak. At least in the Central Holy City, he had to be strong enough. Besides, here, he didn't need to hide his strength. Han Fei stepped to Ren Tianfei's side. The two walked on this long street a few meters apart. Han Fei glanced at the buildings on both sides of the road that should have been dusty for a long time, but were still brand new, and wondered, no one lives here, right? Creak. As soon as Han Fei said so, he saw a door on the side of the road not far away, which opened from the inside. Han Fei cursed in his heart. How many tens of thousands of years has it been? Are there still people living in the central holy city? However, when Han Fei saw the appearance of the person inside, he was shocked again. Isn't that Ren Tianfen? He scanned the person with his perception and found that the person was actually an explorer. Before Han Fei spoke, Ren Tianfen said, "This city is so big that someone has to live here. I can't live here alone. After all, I can't have endless clones." Han Fei couldn't help asking, "Then how many clones do you have?" Han Fei felt that this should be Ren Tianfen's path. Otherwise, he had never seen a venerable using a clone to fight all the time. Ren Tianfei said, "It's okay if you want 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 of them. It's just that the power of different clones is different. It depends on when and how to use it." Han Fei asked path. Ren Tianfen grunted and said, "If it were a combat skill, I would have found a way to give it to you long ago." Han Fei rolled his eyes and then looked around. Is this the central holy city? What's so special about it? Ren Tianfen smiled. Let's go up and have a look. With a shout from Ren Tianfen, the two stepped into the air one after another. When they came to a height of thousands of meters, the layout of the city had already taken shape. However, at this moment, he still couldn't see the entire appearance of the city. Further up, Han Fei saw a winding river in the shape of an S, running through the entire central holy city. On both sides of the river, on both sides of the middle line, there were two completely different architectural styles, black and white. Han Fei was a little dumbfounded. Tai Chi? Ren Tianfei asked, "What is Tai Chi?" "This is yin and yang." Old Man Ren blew his beard and said proudly, "The central holy city uses the inner square as the stars to nourish the fire energy of the mortal world. With Qian Shui as the Milky Way, he placed two palaces in the city. With the Divine Temple as the Big Dipper, the yin and yang of the world converged. On the axis of the heaven character, the world's strongest sects were built. There were the Lunar Academy, the pure Yang Taoist Palace. These were the former Thousand-Star City, the former yin-yang heaven." Han Fei was a little stunned. "No, Old Man Ren, say something. I can understand." Ren Tianfei snorted. "A city has to be inhabited. If there were people living here, there would be people. If there was popularity, there would be governance, and there would be the birth of the power of will. You must have felt it when you fought on the Scattered Stars Island, right?" Han Fei nodded. "So, the central holy city was built to provide the power of will for the king?" Ren Tianfei shook his head. "Of course not. Under the rule of the king, there are billions of people. Those who can live in the central holy city are all extraordinary. How can everyone live here? This is just the backbone of the yin-yang heaven, which represents the level of power." Han Fei didn't dwell on this question, but looked at the river and asked, "What about the river?" Ren Tianfei explained, "The clouds and rain form a river, and the spirit awakening fluid flows in the river. It can be called the Milky Way or the spiritual river. As for the specific name, it doesn't matter. The spirit awakening fluid flows in it." Han Fei couldn't help but gasp. "Are you kidding me? How much spirit awakening fluid does it cost?" Ren Tianfei sneered. "What do you think the spirit awakening fluid is? It is nourished by the Tao of the king and contains the enlightenment of the king. Everything can be awakened by the king's aura. Forget it. You won't understand it, even if I tell you. Anyway, all you need to know is that the spirit awakening fluid is not valuable. Once you become a king, you can have as much as you want." Han Fei asked, "Then what's the matter with the yin-yang diagram? The Lunar Academy and the Pure Yang sect are the two strongest sects in the world on the axis. Why don't the 7 major sects in the Thousand-Star City have them?" Suddenly, Han Fei tilted his head and looked at Ren Tianfei. "Is the Thug Academy the Lunar Academy or the Pure Yang sect?" Ren Tianfei looked at Han Fei with a smile. "Are you so sure that the Thug Academy is one of the 2 major academies?" Han Fei curled his lips. If not, how could the patriarch of the Thug Academy pass the God's Memorial Tower? Why could he enter the Divine Palace? Han Fei sneered again. I used to wonder why the Thug Academy somehow became the top of the 8 major academies in the Thousand-Star City and was popular for a while. The Pure Yang Island, the Thug Academy, the Pure Yang sect. Haha, it turns out that this is the real origin of the Thug Academy. Ren Tianfei said casually, "You're quite smart." Yes, the predecessor of the Thug Academy was indeed the Pure Yang sect. It used to be a revolution for thousands of years. In the end, the experts of the sect withered. The remaining people could only leave the central holy city and start recruiting like the 7 major sects. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, isn't this how you recruited people before? Ren Tianfei glanced at Han Fei with a faint smile and asked, "Is this how you recruited people?" Han Fei thought for a moment. That didn't seem right. Although they left the central holy city, the arrogance of the Thug Academy didn't diminish. For example, Lu Renquang, Zhang Xuanyu, Luo Xiaobai, Xia Xiaochan. Which one of them was recruited? Only Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan were recruited from Chu Jinan's generation. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "What about the Lunar Academy?" Ren Tianfei said indifferently, "You should know that the Yin-Yang heaven was moved here later. At that time, the people of the central holy city followed the army and then scattered everywhere, never returning. The Lunar Academy was separated from the Yin-Yang heaven at that time. Where exactly is it? I don't know." Han Fei took a slight breath. In other words, the Lunar Academy had disappeared for tens of thousands of years. This was understandable. After all, during the Age of Doom, there were indeed battles everywhere. Some people disappeared in the middle of the war. This should be normal. Besides, after the establishment of the 36 immortal palaces, there must have been many battles. Were these people left? Did they still remember the Yin-Yang heaven? It was the same question. Looking at the city occupied only by Ren Tianfei's clone, Han Fei thought to himself, how many years has this old guy lived? Han Fei shrugged and said casually, "So what should I do now? Should I go to the temple or go directly to the immortal palace?" Ren Tianfei smiled faintly. "Me? You can't go anywhere. Even if I'm blessed with great luck, I have to experience it in person. I'd like to see if you are qualified to enter the immortal palace." Han Fei immediately bared his teeth and said angrily, "Old man, you still want to fight me? Why don't you save your strength to fight the puppets in the immortal palace? I heard that there are puppets everywhere in the immortal palace." Ren Tianfei sneered. "You have more than 80% of the good things in the world. I have to make it more difficult for you, right? Are you going to fight me or not? If you beat me, you can go to the immortal palace." Han Fei sneered. "Fine. Do you think I'm afraid of you? You have an indestructible body, but I have also cultivated a golden body. I'd like to see how you can stop me in the same realm." Ren Tianfei's eyelids twitched slightly. Indestructible, golden body. Not bad. But who said I would fight you in the same realm? Han Fei. Ren Tianfei released his aura and unleashed the power of a mid-level venerable. Han Fei was shocked. Didn't Xiao Ci say that the power of the controller had dropped a lot? She said that he was at least a beginner venerable, but besides, Ren Tianfei was only a mid-level venerable. Could he be trusted? Anyway, Han Fei absolutely didn't believe it. Even if Ren Tianfei was a mid-level venerable, he was still a mid-level venerable who could break into the Thousand-Star City on his own. What was the difference between him and a half-king? Han Fei's face immediately turned dark. Hey, old Ren, let's talk nicely. Don't bully me like this. I haven't become a venerable yet. And you want to play with me like this? You're bullying me." Ren Tianfei chuckled. "The strength you showed in the battle on the Scattered Stars Island was not weak at all. Facing an advanced venerable? Half-King realm experts didn't give way at all. What? You want to admit defeat before the fight? Bullsh asterisk T. Even a half-venerable has its limit. You always summon a mid-level venerable and then an advanced venerable. Who do you think you're bullying?" Ren Tianfei suggested. "Why don't you go to the temple and feel the power of the future throne? Maybe you'll have the motivation to defeat me." Han Fei had never been provoked like this before. He immediately shouted, "Come on, let's fight now. I don't believe you can defeat me. You're just a mid-level venerable. Do you think you can beat me?" Bam! Han Fei punched out. The invincible fist mark hit the void. The two of them fought in the void one after the other.